Come sit anywhere. We've got a
Okay.
better mute it all. Test 1, 2. Good morning. We're about to start. Did you review?
When did we start to? Oh, okay. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning.
Everybody's got a handout?
Good morning, Kanisha. Look, I'm usually the one, you're the one's getting in. This morning it's me.
Coffee in the kitchen. Anybody need a pen, writing utensil, coffee?
Okay, I'll fix that better later. Hello.
Gotcha. You got live audience about 20.
Is this where you want me? Is this why it's so close to the table? The podium, can I move it back? Good. It's so nice to see everybody. Do we have those shelf talker things that will tell their names? No, we're good. All right, guys. So good morning. Sorry, I was a few minutes late getting in. My name is Melissa McKinney, and I am your education chair this year. And education is something that I am very passionate about when it comes to helping other realtors get to where they're going. So please take down my email and my phone number. And oh, you have it on your little slide paper because Kayla's good like that. So if you ever have any questions when it comes to the contracts or situations that you have, please reach out to me. There's lots of realtors, no matter where we hang our license, that are more than happy to help. And you know, there's nothing worse than being in the middle of a catastrophe, or you think that it's a catastrophe with real estate and don't know where to get your answers. So we're always here. You know, the board is here to help you all, to point you in the right direction or help you get the answer that you need. So please feel free to reach out at any time. And we're just going to get started. I don't know if my clickers. Oh, that might help.
I gotta unplug the computer mouse.
So the next slide is going to tell us about our entire practical success series here at the association. Our association does something that's wonderful, and that is provide this class every quarter. You guys, it doesn't matter how long you've been in the business, you should always continue to keep learning. I go to every class that I can. So today is buyer skills. Tuesday is listing skills with Amanda Martin, and she is your president-elect. You will learn a plethora of information from her. Next Tuesday, we will have Scott Harden. A lot of you may know Scott because you may have taken a class with him because he teaches post-licensing and CE and things like that for the state. So it's an amazing thing to have him willing to come to the association and share his knowledge as well. So he'll go over contracts, and then when he's finished with that, Sunny Ryder will come in and she will go over, sure, she will go over the steps between getting an offer in on your listing and presenting it to your seller, and the steps to go through to do that. So that's going to be a great class. It'll take you through a lot of the technical real estate. And then Thursday, it'll finish up with Megan Gerber, who is your PR chair this year. And she'll be going over contract to close steps, things that you need to take care of while you're navigating through the transaction. So I encourage you guys to come to all. Oh, look, there we are. And here we are. So I encourage you all to come to the entire series. And if you miss one, it doesn't mean you can't come to the next one. We're going to have it next quarter, and you can come to the classes over and over again. I think every time you come, you hear something new because of classroom discussion. People will ask questions that will then spark a discussion that maybe you didn't hear at the last one. So I think you can't come enough, but again, education is my passion. So. All right, so education is key to a successful transaction, not only for the client, but everyone involved in the transaction. And you're going to hear me say that many times today, because education is key to everything that we do in real estate, whether we're learning for ourselves, whether we are teaching our clients, whether we're helping out the cross-sell agent or maybe someone else in the transaction. I love to talk to lenders in the middle of a problem when it comes to a transaction, because you learn something, right? And you learn something that you might be able to help out your next client with. And it doesn't matter how long you've done this. I don't know, I think it's been about 15 years for me. And I was just talking to a lender the other day that I learned something. I was like, how did I not know this? So you guys, when you think you've learned everything there is to learn about real estate, that's probably when you should hang up your license, because that's when we start making mistakes. So we're always learning, we're always growing. There is no stupid question. So please ask, because this is the time to ask if something comes up or a situation. So educating your clients. Remember, your client asks you a question. They are not questioning you. They are asking because they do not know the answer. I have said this for years. You know, agents come to me and they'll say, I don't know why they're asking. My client just asked me this, and they're all worked up. And I'm like, and well, why they ask me that? Because they don't know. So a lot of us, we get very emotional in real estate. Please remember that when your client is asking you a question, it's because they don't know the answer. So don't think that they're questioning you or your abilities as a real estate agent. They just don't know, and they're looking for the answer. And that is our job, to continue to educate them through the process. They're spending a lot of money, and we should make sure that they know why they're spending it and why we're doing this next step and why we're having to do certain things. So I always start with my buyers at the beginning, and we'll get into this a little later, educating them along the process. I remind them, I tell them what's going to happen next and next and next, and then I do it again. And as we move through the transaction, remember, we talked about this, and this is what's going to happen next. So we always have to continue educating them along the way, because they're going to forget. They don't do this every day. So we need to remind them many times what we're getting ready to do or what's next, so that they feel very relaxed throughout the transaction. Always remember that you're a professional and client looking to you for answers. When they are awaiting an answer on a topic, even if you don't know the answer yet, just let them know you don't know the answer. So if I tell one of my clients, hey, I'll update you at noon tomorrow, then they have this thing, right? They're looking at their phone. If I don't update them at noon the next day, what do you think? They're already getting uptight thinking I've forgotten about them, right? So I always set the expectation. This is when I'm going to update you, or sooner than that, but no later than. And when I send them that text message, because now everybody wants to text, to say, hey, just checking in like I said I would. I don't have the answer yet. This is what I've done to get you your answer, and I'll check back again with you at 4. So I set reminders in my phone. I never want to tell my client I'm doing something that I'm not going to do. So if you set the expectation and you constantly live up to it, then they're relaxed. They feel a whole lot better about the situation and what's going on throughout their transaction. And they find you to be more professional. And they find, even if you don't know the answer, right? Because you can say, they ask you a question, you know what, that's a great question. I'm going to update you this afternoon at 4 o'clock. And then you call somebody else and in a panic and say, oh my gosh, I don't know what the answer is. Well, then when you get back to them a couple hours later, you're so smart. They don't know that you don't know. So just do what you say you're going to do and you will get the answer. Trust me. Let's see. And of course, I've already hit this topic, I'm sure. A well-educated client is a happy, relaxed client. Even if they do not like the answer, at least they know. So when the phone rings and you look at it and you have bad news to tell a client or something that you think they're not going to like, because we put our own limiting beliefs on our clients, whether you realize it or not. Try not to do that. People will say to me, oh, Melissa, this is what's going to happen. They're going to be upset. I'm like, are you sure they're going to be upset? Well, I don't know. I mean, I think they're going to be upset. Well, did you tell them? Well, no, I just know that this is what's going to happen. Well, you don't know until you tell them. So just tell them. And they'll tell them and they'll come back and be, well, they weren't mad about that at all. I'm like, yeah, because that's what you would have been mad about, but it's not what they would have been mad about. So our job isn't to decide for them if they're going to be upset or they're going to be mad. Just give them the information that they need to make their own educated decision about how they want to spend their money. So don't get personally attached. We are deliverers of information. Just deliver it, right? And let them, never give them information and say, oh, I'd be really mad about that. Because now they think they should be mad about it. Don't borrow trouble for yourself. I have listened to agents have conversations where I'm thinking, oh my gosh, you're taking your own transaction, because they may not have been mad. And especially if your client, and you'll learn those, if they're a follower and you say, oh my gosh, I'd be mad about that. Well, now they're mad about it, even if they didn't think they were going to be mad about it. So stop setting yourself up for failure by giving them your opinion about the situation until they ask you about it. Well, what do you think we should do? And don't say, well, I'd be mad about it. Come up with an answer. Don't present a problem, always present the answer. And of course, they're spending a lot of money and they should know what's coming, right? I always tell everybody, this is our first step. And after this step, this is how it's going to go. Let me give you a brief overview about how this transaction is going to play out. Explain due diligence to them 5,000 times. And when they're sitting down to write that offer, you guys, you need to re-remind them. Once they make this offer, and it gets accepted, they're going to owe that money to the seller. Whether they close or not, it's no longer their money. So they've gotten a little stricter about those situations, and we'll talk about it a little later. Uh-oh, what happened? Did I go backwards? Okay, here we go. Cross-sell agents shouldn't have to wait days to get an answer in a transaction. If an agent is asking you questions because their client wants to know, so please be considerate. Even if you don't have the answer yet, let them know that you do not and that you're still working on it. Same thing we do with our clients. I get so agitated, y'all, when I send a message to a cross-sell agent to ask a simple question, and it takes them a day to respond. Because if you haven't responded, I'm going to start dialing the phone. I'm going to keep dialing the phone, and I'm going to be the biggest pest until I get what my client wants to know. So when I see, and I do the same thing, my phone rings and a name comes up and I think, oh my gosh, this is what I go through in my head. I'm sure y'all been there. I just don't want to deal with that right now. And then 2 seconds later, I'm like, oh, but then I'll have to call them back. And then it's going to just weigh on my, hi, it's Melissa. What can I do for you? Right? Just get it over with. Just answer, be done with it, because we stack things on our plate all day long. So then our day feels overwhelming. Just handle it as it comes along, and then the day won't seem so stressful. You're gonna have to deal with it. You might as well deal with it when it's coming your way and just be done with it. So if you keep the lines of communication open and the information flowing back and forth, the cross-sell agent's going to think that you did a wonderful job. Your clients are going to think you did a wonderful job. So everyone in the transaction is just as important. It's just not about me and my client. It's about my cross-sell agent and their client. It's about the lender and the home inspectors and the appraisers. Y'all, we have to think past our own nose to make sure that our entire transaction goes well. I don't ever want somebody to say, I don't want to do a transaction with Melissa, because I had to drag her all the way through. And if you've been in real estate long enough, you've drugged someone all the way through a transaction. So, but do you tell your client about the fact that you're dragging the other agent through the transaction? No. Never, never. My clients don't ever hear anything derogatory or negative coming from me. I might be pulling my hair out, but as far as they know, everything's going wonderful. Yes, we're right on track, because I'm not going to make something that's so stressful for them any more stressful. And I'm not going to try to build myself up in front of them by saying something's going wrong and now I'm their superhero. They're just going to know at the end of the transaction that I didn't create any drama for them. And they're really going to think you are a superhero. So stop this whole, roller coaster with your clients. I like to say all the time that we're the driver of a bus of a transaction. If we're swerving all over the road, everybody on our bus is going to want to get off. But if we're straight and narrow and they can relax in their seat, they're going to want to stay on our bus. And they're going to want all their friends to get on our bus. So remember, whatever you're doing today is going to reflect tomorrow in how you do your business and how people refer them to you. So always remember, be kind, even when the other side isn't being kind. I have a cross-sell going right now with somebody who keeps answering me with smart answers. And I keep saying, oh, thank you so much for that information. Here's my information. Because it doesn't do me any good right now when I'm servicing my client to say, that is not what happened. You don't have to be rude, yada, yada, yada. I don't care. I don't have to go home with her or him. I get to do my thing. And at the end of the day, I'm going to get my client what I promised I'm going to get them as stress-free as possible and get them to the closing table. Because I don't have to tell them my opinion. I don't have to be that one to say, well, that's not really what happened. If that's what you want to believe that happened, fine. Let's just get to the closing table. So it's all about our attitude in our transactions. The professionalism that you show other agents will show in your work and how others perceive you. You don't want to be the one that everyone dreads doing business with. So if you're constantly causing trouble in a transaction, then next time they see your name come up, they're going to go, oh, gosh, I got to do this again. I got to drag them all the way through the thing. Can't get them to answer their phone. Can't get them to give me a simple answer. Just do what you can do when it's put on your plate. Just answer. In today's market as buyer's agents, we're putting in offers many times for buyers. We're waiting to hear back from them, right? The cross-sell agent, find out what's going on, that kind of thing. Just answer people. Do what you would want them to do for you. If you want to know if your offer's been accepted or not, you don't want to just see it go pending in the MLS, right? You took all that time to show your buyer, you wrote up the offer, you presented it nicely and politely. You would just like that in return. So just remember, you're going to be in that opposite seat at some time. This is my favorite. There's no place for egos in real estate. And you guys, this is so serious. It's not you in the transaction. It's not your transaction. Remember, keep this a business transaction. There are no we in the transaction. It's always about what your client wants. So I've been in lots of transactions over the years. And, occasionally when something happens, whether it's my seller or my buyer doesn't want to do something, and I have to then deliver the information to the other side. And then the agent will start getting upset. There's nothing to get upset about. When I'm conversating with you about what's going on, there's no reason for you to be mad at me. I'm relaying information that my client will or will not do, and your job is to present it to your seller for what the buyer or the seller will or will not do. There's no reason for you to be angry about it, right? So I've had people say, we've already done blah, 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 right? When you're representing a buyer and you go back to the seller and say, hey, the buyer really wants this to be done. We've already blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yes, I always do this. Yes, I understand the frustration, but this is what the buyer is willing to do. Well, we blah, 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 blah. And, you know, when somebody gets so blown out of proportion when I'm talking to, I will say, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were a party to this transaction. I didn't see your name on the offer. So, you know, it quiets them back down. But, you know, like I said, I use that when things get a little hairy. But if we all just approach a transaction that we are servicing our client in a real estate transaction, it's not about us. It's about what they want. And if you are about to have a conversation with your client where you are defending yourself, just don't even have that conversation. It doesn't matter. Even if you are right, it doesn't matter. You know, I have a listing that closed a few weeks ago and loved the seller. And so I had told her many times about what was going to happen. And so something happened. And then I said, oh, but this is how it's going to go. And she goes, well, you never told me that. Well, I know I told her that. But is it going to do me any good to tell her that I told her that? No. You know what I said? Oh, I am sorry. That's completely my mistake. I'll make sure that doesn't happen again. She's like, oh, it's okay. I forgive you. Now, I would much rather, right. I'd much rather the conversation go like that than I told you, no, you didn't. But I did tell you that. No, really, you didn't do it. Because now she doesn't like me. We're not friends anymore. Just take the blame, you guys. It doesn't matter. Unless it's something that's going to get you in trouble with the commission. And then think very carefully about how you respond to that. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I'm right or wrong. It only matters if I'm servicing my client the way they expect me to. So I just don't argue unless it's something very, very important that I have to, you know, and then I'm never going to present it in a way that I'm arguing. So they can always be right. I don't care. And I always say, just laugh all the way to the bank when you're done. Because, right, you're done. You move on to the next one and you keep up with them. So they send you referrals and when they're ready to sell, blah, blah, blah. So there's no room for egos. It's not your transaction. You're just the facilitator of the transaction. So we don't take ownership into the problems that occur. There's no such thing as a stupid question. You don't know until you don't know until someone tells you the answer. So we've already gone over a good amount of information. I'd love to get some feedback from the live bodies in the class. Do we have any questions about what we've already gone over? Somebody needs to talk today. Not, it's going to be a very short class. Yes.
It's very interesting what you mentioned about the week, because I realize that that's exactly what I do, because I feel so invested with the clients that are like, I've become friends because buying process is so long right now and you are going through so much. So like, I know after we will stay friends.
Right.
But I tend to say like, I'm invested in the transaction and I say we.
Yes.
No worries, we'll make it happen. And yeah.
Yeah. So, and everybody does it, right? Because you feel like we are together. But just remember, and you know, even if I slip up and say we, because sometimes I do, you know, and just passing, not in a bad way, but I always correct myself because it's just a bad habit to get into to say we. You are not a party to the transaction. My client, my seller, my buyer, you know, refer to it as a business transaction. Remember that where your space is in the transaction. And it always just works out better. Because then you're putting yourself in that box that doesn't make you so emotionally attached to what's going to happen. And through the years, I've been a broker in charge, I've done teams, all that kind of stuff. And the thing that I love to do most is to help people through problems. And so many times I've had people come to my office crying. And I always say, there is no crying in real estate. I don't know why you're crying. I always just say, don't go to Melissa's office if you're crying, because it's gonna not go so well. But, people get really upset, right? We've all been there, think you did something wrong, and then you get upset, and then you get emotionally drained by it all. So the very first thing I always say is, first I ask why you're crying. But I always say, I have one question for you. Before we even get into what's going on, I have one question for you. And I say, yeah, sure, what? I'm like, did anybody die? And then they laugh, and they're like, no. I'm like, okay, then we can fix it. As long as nobody died along the way, there is a solution for every real estate problem. And whenever you're feeling like you're in the midst of a problem, the first thing you have to say is, what's the worst that can happen? Because if you start with whatever can happen and work your way back. So when you're in the middle of a transaction, what is the worst that can happen? Right, they don't close? Okay. It's all right. Not every deal is going to go to the closing table. So you have to make sure that you keep it that way. This is a business transaction, cost of doing business. Sometimes they go to the closing table, most times they do, but sometimes they won't. And that's okay too. It's how you handle the fall apart, whether the client continues on to the next transaction with you. And you know what? Maybe their financing fell through. For buyers, it happens often. Things change. But how do you handle? Are you mad at them because they bought a car 2 days before closing and now they can't close? Are you going to be mad at them and give them this whole attitude issue? No. What you're going to do is you're going to say, it's okay. It happens. It'll take you 6 months. I'm going to be here to show you, because in 6 months, do you want somebody else to benefit from all that you've already done with them? No, it's okay. We're all human. You make mistakes. I make mistakes. They make mistakes. It's all in how we handle it if they're going to stay on our bus, right? Any other questions, comments?
I just have 2 comments. Basically, there are takeaways in regards to,
awesome.
You said we are deliverers of information and don't borrow trouble for yourself. So I thought those 2 were great nuggets to take away.
Thanks. I love that. Anybody else? Y'all, I say that all the time. Stop borrowing trouble for yourself, because there is no trouble. We sometimes create issues that aren't there because of our own beliefs that they're not going to like it. And so, I can't tell you how many times I've said, just tell them. They're like, oh, they said, okay. All righty then, let's keep moving. So you worried yourself all that time for just not delivering the information that your client should have had to spend their money to make their own educated decision. Because that's all we're doing.
Melissa?
Yes, ma'am.
What if you deliver that information and my sellers take it upon themselves to try to resolve the situation of what's going on because they have tenants? So I deliver my information, and she copies me to an email saying whatnot, and now the tenants feel like, now I'm feeling like if I go over there, it's
yeah. So we're going to stick mostly to buyers today because sellers is Thursday, but I'm just going to hit the topic of how do we handle a situation when our client goes rogue. We're going to call it that because they will go rogue on you. I've had sellers Facebook stalk my buyers because they wanted to tell them something because they thought for sure I hadn't already told them. So sometimes our clients will go rogue. And you know what? We just have to damage control the best we can without giving our opinion about what they did was not correct, right? My seller should never have contacted your buyer. Yeah, we've just in a sticky situation. So this is what we're going to do to fix this problem. Don't make it a bigger problem than it already is, because sometimes, we're free thinkers, right? So we're going to do some things we shouldn't do probably. So I would just go with the fact that damage control, it's always damage control. We're not going to add to a problem. We're not going to throw our own opinion in about what we think the seller or buyer should have done. We're just going to fix it. Anybody else? Yes.
So I guess the origin of this question is more from the seller side, but it goes both ways.
Sure.
I like to, like you say, keep the information flowing freely. So on one hand, I want to tell my client everything that's happening, but on the other hand, right, because they have a right to know it's their transaction.
Right.
But on the other hand, sometimes the back and forth with the other side can be a lot of detail and more cumbersome than they really want to know.
Right.
So on one hand, you have to weigh the client and how they receive information, but how do you handle that situation? And specifically in this case, I had a seller out of state and the buyer kept changing things. It was really immaterial to the result, but it was good information to know. And so there were some things that I was just filtering and not letting the seller know, just to protect their mental bandwidth, right? But I guess that would go both ways. So how do you?
That is an amazing question, because it's true, right? We're supposed to deliver all the information to our client. However, there are some things that we can handle without involving them. So something may come up in a transaction that is going to be a problem. Well, before I go to my client with it, I always try to say, hey, what if we were to do this? Do you think your client would approve? You know, I like to go back with my client with a solution to a problem, but I like to just talk it out with you. And if you're a great cross-sell agent, that's the kind of relationships that you want to have. You want to problem solve. Don't be the problem maker, be the problem solver. And so I will go through many scenarios, and sometimes I'll get a resolution that doesn't include my client. But if it has to do with the money or the terms and things like that, we can't negotiate that without letting them know. But if there are little issues that we can take care of, that's all part of it. And so I will then tell my client, hey, this came up. This is the solution we came up with, just to let you know kind of how things have been going. And then they're like, oh, I like your idea. So, you know, there are those times when we're problem solving before we tell our client. You know, don't always run to your client. The sky is falling. Don't be Chicken Little. So, you know, try to be the problem solver always. Any more questions during this section? I'm going to try and watch my clock because I always forget the breaks, because I could just talk about real estate forever. Okay, moving right along. Let's talk about advertising, or otherwise known as lead generating. So to get a buyer, this is really a big part of what we do in real estate. So all are a part of farming for business. So for people that have been in the business, maybe a long time, maybe a short time, and don't know what the term farming means, let's talk about that first, because I absolutely dislike sitting in a class where somebody uses an acronym or a term that is used in the profession without explaining it. And I'll be the first one to go, what's farming? Because, I don't care what people think about me in the class, I just ask my questions. So farming is the way that we reach out and we generate business. So there are many different ways that you can do that. We've got social media, print ads, direct mailings, door knocking, everyday activities. Any other things that you guys use as lead generating services? Or cold calling. Yep. Touching your database just to say, hey, I'm in real estate. So people that don't get up every day saying, hey, wow, how can I make Melissa's life better today? Let me see if I can find her a real estate client. They just don't. And you think that you don't want to bother people, reminding them that you're a real estate agent. So just calling people and say, hey, how are you doing today? I saw little Johnny went back to school. How are they liking it? Blah, blah, blah. It doesn't always have to be about real estate, because they're going to ask you how things are going, right? And then you're going to say, oh, business has been booming. I don't suppose you've heard of anybody wanted to buy or sell real estate, because I just want to remind you that you can give my number out all you want. So there's that kind of stuff. And they'll go, oh, right. Yeah, I did. Somebody at work was just talking about it. I'm going to find out she's got a real estate agent. I do it all the time because I work mostly from referrals at this point in my career. that just people that, you know, I talk to and remind them, because we have to be top of mind. So I went to a class one time many years ago, and it was all about lead generating. And so we did a little breakout session where we would, you know, call people and, you know, see like that, call our database. So a guy comes back in and he's laughing. And I will never forget this. And it really drove that point home to me. So we were supposed to call people and say, hey, you know, same thing. How you doing? Do you know anybody? Have you heard anybody lately that wants to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? Those kinds of things. And so the guy comes back and he's laughing. And so he talks to the teacher. And then right when we get back in class, he stands up to talk and he says, so we could run this script on anybody. We could call our mother, brother, husband, wife, didn't matter, right? It's just get to practice of doing these things. And so the teacher puts him on the mic and says, you got to tell everybody. So he calls his wife to run the script, and she's at work. And she says, oh, yes, Sally, my office mate, she's looking to buy a house. He said, I sleep with her every night. I'm like, because she got up and went to work and she doesn't care about what you're doing. So we constantly have to remind people that we're in real estate and we would really like their referrals. So that really hit home for me when I was in that class that time, because it was hysterical. So it just goes to show you, not just remember, not everybody gets up every day. So when you're on Facebook and you see a friend of yours that says they're under contract, don't be mad at them. Be mad at yourself, because you didn't make yourself top of mind for them. So that's your fault, not their fault. So let's take the blame for what we don't do in this. Anybody else have suggestions? That was a great one, because that, I can't believe I didn't put that on the slide. Anybody else does it have something that they do?
I know the direct mailing. So I did that when Emily told me how. But one neighborhood I held on to because the seller readily called me from that neighborhood, asked me to list their house. So instead of mailing those out, I kept them and I went personally to live with them.
Yep.
And I met a few people.
Yep. Yep. There's lots of ways, you guys. So if you're going to go door knocking, what are you going to take? Something. Yep. You're going to take your business card, but something of value. Yep. So through the years, I have done little things where, you know, I've just listed a house and I might walk up and down that street to give some information out. So if I just knock on the door and hand somebody my business card and tell them who I work with and what do, do you think that by the time they get to the kitchen where the trash can is, that they're going to put my card on their refrigerator, or are they going to put it in the trash? They're probably going to put it in the trash, because that's what I would do if somebody knocked on my door. But if I give them something of value, so what I do is I always pull what's happened in the last 6 months, the little short one-liners, take out who sold it and any of their phone numbers, because we don't want to get confused. Then I take my business card and I copy it on the piece of paper. So I take that paper, put my business card, copy it. And then I just hand out that one little flyer that I made up real quick. Hey, I just thought maybe you might be interested in what's going on in the neighborhood. I'm listing this house down the street. So when you give them something of value, they're not going to throw it away. And if you've attached your business card to that by copying it on it, you can give them a separate business card if you like, but they're going to keep that piece of paper, because when their spouse gets home or significant other, they're going to want to show them, hey, look, did you see how much is going on in this neighborhood? Maybe we should talk about selling. So always give them something of value and something that is attached to your information.
What did you say that report was called?
The 6 month what's closed, just the one-liner.
Okay.
Just the quick one-liner. And that's how we're going to talk about generating business for yourself. Because if you're new in the business, or maybe you just don't have any listings right now, there's tons of information that you can give out and make posts about. We're going to talk about that in just a few minutes, about Facebook posts and how to get out there in front of people and make yourself known and make it look like you're super busy. Because the MLS provides us tons of information that we could then turn into a microblog on Facebook. So anything that you do, consistency is what it takes no matter the avenue you choose. So if you're going to do a direct mailing to a neighborhood and you only do it one time and think, well, that didn't work, then you are, might as well not even send out the first mailing, because if you're not going to send it on a consistent basis so they're always seeing you, then don't do it at all. So I love to read what NAR puts out. I love to read their stats and, you know, what's going on in the market. And I don't know, some years ago, I read an article about being top of mind in farming. So this marketing company made up a real estate agent who wasn't real, fictitious totally, and sent out postcards to this neighborhood for 6 months on a regular basis, different ads, same person. And then they went door knocking to see if the people there would remember who the real estate agent is. So they would ask, hey, if you need a real estate agent today, who would you choose? And you would be surprised how many chose that fictitious real estate agent, because they had constantly been seeing her. So in their mind, this is who they would choose, even though they never did business with her. They had never met her, but it's that constant advertisement that then makes people think of you. Same thing we do on Facebook. I make funny posts all the time about being a real estate agent. You know, say, hey, here's my quarterly public service announcement. Don't forget I'm a real estate agent. You wouldn't want anybody, you wouldn't want your people to have any other experience but with me or something silly, you know. So let's talk about the rules first. There are guidelines that we must follow governed by the North Carolina Real Estate Commission when we advertise. They're very strict about what we do. Don't put things online that you're going to get in trouble for, because it is very important, and they are watching. And now NAR is watching to make sure that what you're posting is real estate agent, or to be able to have that title. Let's see. I don't know why it keeps going back. I must click the wrong side or something. Here we go. So the rule for advertising is a broker shall not advertise any brokerage services or sale, purchase, exchange, rent, or lease of real estate for another or others without the consent of his or her broker in charge, and without including the advertisement, the name of the firm or sole proprietorship which the broker is affiliated. You guys, this goes for provisionals and full brokers. Doesn't matter. You have got to post who you are associated with. I don't care if it's your own firm, write it, because it's very important that we portray ourselves as a professional looking for business. So the commission's outlook on that is that, you know, the public needs to know where they can go, or if there is a boss, or if they have problems with you, you know, there's somebody else they can contact. But it is part of the rule that we must say who we are associated with. Blind advertisements. A broker shall not advertise a sale, purchase, exchange, rent, or lease of real estate for others in a manner indicating the offer to sell, purchase, exchange, rent, or lease is being made by the broker's principal only. Every such advertisement shall include that in this advertisement of a broker and firm, and shall not be confined to the publication and only contact information such as post office box, telephone number, street address, internet, web, or email address. So basically what that means, a blind ad is putting an ad out there and not making it known that you are a professional looking for business. So you can't look as if you are just posting a house for yourself for sale. And here is an example. So tell me if you think there's anything wrong with this post.
Yes.
What's wrong with it?
You don't have your firm.
Correct. Right? It doesn't look like I'm a real estate agent, does it? It just looks like I'm trying to sell a house, right? It could be my own house. It could be a for sale by owner. This is what a blind ad is all about, you guys. I haven't put my phone number there, but did I say I was a real estate agent? If the consumer calls me, do they know I'm a professional looking for business? No. So that is the commission's number one goal when you're advertising, to make sure that the client or the consumer knows when they call you that you are a professional agent. Because there are things that you should discuss over the phone if someone calls you about real estate. Hold on, I missed something because we didn't talk about the working with real estate agents pamphlet. Where's my slide for that one? I thought it came early. I thought it came right after the rules. All right, well, we're going to skip back because we should have talked to that right after the what are the rules. So everybody knows that the working with real estate agents is a first substantial contact thing that we must do. So what is first substantial contact? Does anybody know? Anybody want to throw out some ideas? Yes. Yep. Yep. Because we don't want them telling us any personal or confidential information until they know the types of agencies there are in North Carolina and how we are actually standing at that moment. And when I mean standing at that moment, if you're a listing agent and a potential buyer calls you, then you need to be able to say, hold up, I just need to go over the working with real estate agents with you. I just want you to know that I am currently representing the seller, and you wouldn't want to tell me anything that you wouldn't want the seller to know. So we're constantly telling people what they should or shouldn't tell us. And, you know, I've heard agents say, well, I told them I was a listing agent. They just told me everything. Well, I don't want to know everything. I don't want to take advantage of anybody. I don't want an unfair advantage in anything. I do my job well enough that I don't have to get the information in a way that I shouldn't have. So we need to make sure at first substantial contact that we are in fact talking to the buyers about the working with real estate agents, especially if you're opening a door for a listing of yours. So that's very, very important, and a very important slide that I missed. So I wanted to make sure we jump back because I was like, we're getting way too far into this without talking about the working with real estate agents.
Page 9, slide number 25.
Oh. Well, you know, it's okay. But you guys, you need to make sure you're doing that before you get into any of the stuff that we're talking about here. So, oh, that's where I had it because we're just talking about advertising. So sorry, I got totally off topic because, you know, it's very important. So I worry about that. All right, so let's go on with where we were, advertising. That was my own mistake. So when you take a look at this ad right here, that's what it should look like. You should have all of your information. It's very apparent that I'm a real estate agent now, where I work, how to contact me, all of those things. Does everyone do this when you're posting on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or anything like that? First of all, if you're posting a post like this on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or wherever else, why are you posting it? What is the first reason that you're putting something up on social media? I'm sorry, can't hear you. Say it out loud because it's right. Y'all don't be shy.
You're trying to find a buyer?
Trying to find a buyer. So why wouldn't you want to put all this information? If you're posting things online, anywhere online, you want people to call you. So why would you post this without having all the pertinent information for people to contact you? Right? And the commission doesn't require all that I have here, but this is all the ways that I want a client to find me. So are y'all going to start putting everything you need on social media posts. First of all, you need to have your brokerage name so you don't get in commission, you don't get in trouble with the commission with your contact information. Yes.
Just a quick question. If you have a business page, Facebook business page, and like the header of your business page has,
I was waiting for that question. Usually everybody asks that.
Everything about you, and then you're just freely listing things. Do I have to
No.
Okay.
However, there's always a however. So the way that Facebook works, or Instagram or Twitter or whatever, sometimes you can post a picture with stuff or post a post and somebody shares it, and then the connect to your page gets a little lost. So even though you don't have to, because all of your pertinent information is there where you're posting the ad, why wouldn't you? Because how many times do you guys see something that you think, oh, that's really interesting, let me click on it, and then it doesn't show up the first time you click on it? Do you lose your drive to find out the information? So why wouldn't you just put it everywhere it is, and all they have to do is click? Because we're trying to generate for business. So I don't want them to have to figure out Facebook pages and if they've changed up and try to find my number. I'm just going to give it to them right there. All they do is click and go, right? So when we're generating for business, we want to make sure that everything is where they can easily find it. Does that make sense?
This would be like for direct advertising, right? Like, because you mentioned your just like funny posts that you do. Do you still put all of this under your? Sure do. Because now I've posted for business. Yeah.
So anytime I post anything about real estate, it could be just something funny. It could be a picture of, you know, blooming dogwoods in Fayetteville, and wouldn't you love to have a house with your very own dogwood tree? Call me. I'll help you find that one. I mean, you guys, I took a challenge when blogging became very popular. I don't know how long ago, maybe 12 years ago or so. I took a challenge to blog every day for a year. So when I first started, I thought, who's going to want to hear anything that I have to say in a blog? Because I can't write anything. But the best way to learn something is to challenge yourself. Whenever I start to learn something, you know how our head, it kind of cramps up and we think we're never going to get it. But when you continually push through and then you become proficient at it, if you've done that enough times in your life, you know that any challenge that you take, you can conquer it. So I took this blogging challenge. Matter of fact, my very first blog said something like, okay, I took this challenge. I don't know who's going to want to read what I have to say, but I did it. So, you know, through that busy summer season and all, I'm like, oh my gosh, and I write a blog before midnight tonight, as there's a bunch of us doing it together. And so I would have to dream up a blog post. You could give me any topic, and I can turn it into a real estate post. So I trained myself to do that. So I do it all the time. People don't even realize that I'm advertising for business, but they see me post things about real estate. So, you know, the new Harris Teeter opened up over by Jack Britt. I wrote about Harris Teeter opening up, and you know how great it was going to be to have Harris Teeter on that side of the town, and how that area was booming. And wow, if you'd like to live in the Jack Britt area, I'm the real estate agent for you. So do you know how many times that I did it for Panera? I do it for the Stony Point Fire Department. Every year I have to go in and update that Stony Point. And now we're all going to be doing it. Do it. Do you know how many times I have people call me up and go, so what are the hours for the Stony Point, for the Trail of Terror? And I laugh. And I'm like, oh, I think this year it's like from 9 to whatever. I said, however, you're reading my real estate blog. Do you happen to want to buy real estate? So you can turn everything in a way that people call you. So, I mean, if I get a wrong number, I always ask them, do they want to buy or sell real estate? My number is one number off from a billing department of one of the hospitals, and I get calls all the time. And because they want to pay their bill. Well, I don't want to take your money, but I can sell you a house. So you guys, it's fun. If you always go through life not worrying about if you get a no, then this will be so easy for you. You know, people say, well, I can't pick up the phone. If you logged into my website, then you want me to call you, right? Because my thinking is, oh my gosh, I'm doing them such a favor because I'm such a great agent for them. So change the way you think about lead generating and it will change the way you do business. So I have a lot of fun with it. And, you know, it's just what I do because I don't care, you know. So if I'm slowing down, I like to take bird photography. So if I'm riding with my husband in the car and I happen to have my camera and I want him to stop somewhere really fast, he gets mad because he doesn't want to inconvenience the person behind him. I'm like, so you'd rather argue with me? So you know what I always tell him? You don't know that person behind you. You're never going to see him again. They don't know who you are. What is the big deal about upsetting somebody because they had to, you know, slow down while you got off the road or whatever? It's the same in real estate, you guys. Make the phone call. What's the worst that can happen? If they hang up on you, oh, well. I'm like, I did my job good. They had to hang up on me. Right. So it doesn't matter, but you have everything to gain by making the phone call because maybe you're going to make that connection. Maybe they want to go see a house. So you need to make the phone call. Think about things differently. I know everybody in this room has called somebody to get an estimate for something or whatever the case might be. And then you get busy at work and the days fly by and you think, oh, I really want to have that guy come do that work. I got to find his number and I get busy during the day and only remember at midnight when I can't sleep that I didn't do that. And then he happens to call you the next day and you answer the phone and he says, hey, Miss McKenna, I was just checking with you to see if you want to get that. I am so glad you called me because I've been so busy to stop to find your number and give you a call. Yes, yes. So I just think I'm that person. They want to buy a house. They don't have time during the day. I need to call them so I can be their best friend. And that's how I think about it when I make a phone call. I will pick up a phone and call them in a New York second because I don't have anything to lose, but everything to gain. So if you just change the way you think about it, when you're lead generating for buyers and just move forward from that cold calling, your own sphere to have a conversation. And, you know, if you've closed a house and it's been 2 years since you talked to the buyer, shame on you, but call them anyways. I was just thinking about you today and I can't believe I was looking at my calendar. It's been 2 years. It seems like yesterday. So I thought I needed to call and check up on you because time just got away from me. I never say, so sorry, I haven't called you in 2 years. Why are you going to start like that? So,
Melissa, how often do you follow up with your clients?
I like to do it once a quarter, and sometimes I miss it, but you know what? It doesn't keep me from doing it the next quarter. And if I happen to miss somebody, I always send them something in the mail. So they call me, you know, send them some brownies, have something delivered, because then they got to call me to thank me. So I don't even have to be uncomfortable. So it's all about how you change the way that things are in your life. There's always a way around it if you come from a positive point. So we are going to take a 10-minute break because we've been talking for an hour. And then we're going to come back because I stopped on purpose because I got something I want to show y'all when we come back. Sure. Okay, let's hear this one question.
You were talking about just being consistent with whatever your marketing is.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about sending out postcards. So how often, because you said you're doing
at the minimum once per month. Mm-hmm. And you have to commit to at least a year. At least a year. And there are services that you can put in an address and say, send 50 postcards around this address, and you can do it. Postcards Plus, I use them a lot. And you know, it's cheap. They put it together for you. They send it out. You buy this little mailing list. So when you get the mailing list for that area, they send it to you and then you can use it again and again. So postcards.
How do you get the, I'm interested, how do you get the mailing list to like a neighbor?
The postcards, if you use the postcards place, they'll do it for you. Let's hold that. Go ahead and take your 10-minute break so we stay on. And when we come back, we're going to hit that. Don't let me forget. We'll continue on with that part. So glad y'all are talking now.
Well, look, you gave us so much information we haven't even asked.
Try to cover it.
You've been doing this for 15 years?
Mm-hmm.
What firm were you with? How did you start originally? Did you
Oh.
jump around or?
Oh, mute me. Mute me.
Because that's
Okay, guys, we're gonna get started. It's 10 after. Are we on? Okay. So now when I was telling you about everything that you need to put into your post, don't we get tired of typing all the time? Because I am lazy, and anything that I can find to make my life a little bit easier, I always go for. So I'm getting ahead of my clicks here. So when you're talking to your client and you talk about due diligence and you tell them all about it, right? Then you have to tell them about it again. And then you have to talk about inspections, and you have to tell them about it again, and you have to tell about it again. And you know, they always want to text you at 9 o'clock at night to ask you this question, right? I don't need to be texting anything at 9 o'clock at night because I'm probably not going to type it right. I'm probably going to mess up. So I have an app for that. And an app that works everywhere that you need to put your information. All you have to do is do it in your phone one time. So if I'm at my, too fast. So if you take a look at this, this is a Facebook post I'm getting ready to do. And then we push on this little earth sign right here, and it brings up this keyboard. These are all my canned responses that I've already made. Put emojis in, make them look really cute. I've written long ones, short ones, you name it. I've done it because I'm only going to type something once because I am lazy. So all I have to do is click Melissa McKinney right here, and this all comes in. I can do this in an email. I can do it in Facebook. I can do it on Instagram. Doesn't matter. Do it in text message. Doesn't matter. That's what I can do. So this app is, oh, what happened? What'd I do? Only me. Okay. So this, I don't know. So the app is called Canned Responses. It is the most underrated app there is. So you can put anything you want in here, you guys, anything. I've written, I should have put a screenshot of what one would look like. Let me just. So
it just adds a part to your normal keyboard?
Yes, so it's an additional keyboard. Oh. So if I hit this, and so look at, can everybody see my screen right here? So here's my text message string. So let's say that I want to talk about inspection time. I hit that. Here's all the information that I send with the links for all of my providers. Can y'all see that? I just hit one button and there it all is. Yes.
So do you manually go in and like have certain responses saved for whatever buttons they have on there, or does it have like this is what you generate responses and
so when you go in, whenever a client asks me a question and I have to make this really well written response, I then copy it to this keyboard and save it and title it. So you can have as many as you want. They can be as long as you want. Doesn't matter. I've got one for happy birthday, because how many times are you going to write happy birthday? I hope you have a great day. So when I'm on Facebook, I just click my happy birthday. It fills it all in.
Basically like quick successful results.
Correct. I used to use the keyboard shortcuts on the phone manually and make things that then would pop up, but they don't format correctly. So if I made paragraphs, it would all just squeeze together. So I found this app, and you guys, if anything, it's worth you coming today to see this, because it will save you so much time. And so if an agent says, well, I need to know what to say to my client about due diligence, I just send them my response. I'm like, send them this. So they don't even have to write it up. They can just send them what I say. Yep. Canned response keyboard. Bye. So this, I think it was like $2.99 in the App Store. I would never be without it because now I'm even lazier. Because I figured out how to be lazy and efficient. So it saves me tons of time. I've got lots of things, anything that I have to do. So if I'm doing a listing and I'm going to talk about the listing on different social media platforms, I put it in canned response. So all I have to do is when I go to Twitter, I can hit the street address. When I go to Facebook, I just hit the street address. It says everything that I wanted to say already. Because remember, we're busy during the day, how many times to type on the keyboard. So this is a way that you can be more efficient in your day and move straight through it.
Inspection time, is that the name of an app or is that like, what are you explaining in an inspection time?
So all of these are things that I send to clients. So if let me pull up my notes app. So if I pull up my notes app, and then I'm here in my notes app. Can everybody see my notes app? If I hit this little button and I hit inspection time, right? It tells them everything that and the links to people that I've used in the past or my clients have used in the past. So it starts with congratulations, you're now under contract and it's time to move to the next phase. And then it goes on to tell them about how the inspections are done. What are we doing when we're doing them? Here are some suggestions. Goes on to say that they can pick one online if they like, if they want to go off my list. Just let me know who they are. And so it gives them all the information that they need. And I only have to write it once. And then it ends with, I'm so excited for you.
Do you do it ever on text or on email?
You can do it anywhere you want to put it. So if I'm going to write an email about this, I just open my email, click the little circle, and it'll insert an email. So once you've written it, and anytime that you have, and you know how I got started with this when I found it? I went back to all my text message strings that I had gone through, already written with my clients, copied it, took out any personal information, and pasted it into my keyboard. Yeah, so I didn't even have to rewrite it.
Is this app available on Google Play?
Oh,
or just iPhone?
I don't know. I'm sure there is one. If it's not this one, there is one. Probably call. So, if anything, it was worth coming for that, right? I just made your life easier. Remember that when I'm across sale.
So now you turned on so you're on Zoom or through your thing is printing every word you speak. From behind you.
Oh. Okay. I fixed it. All right, so enough about the app. We're moving on. So the MLS has a lot of blog fodder for you guys. Social media post is nothing more than a microblog. You have an audience at your fingertips if you use it correctly. What if you have no listings to advertise, right? We've got to have something to put up. And I don't care if you have nothing under your name right now, as far as listings or any buyers or whatever the case might be, you can go to our MLS and find something to write something about. Remember, this doesn't need to be a long post because people lose interest in what we have to say. So let's take a look. When we log into our MLS on the very front page, there's a lot of good information right there for you. So right here is your Market Watch Square. And you guys should be looking at this every day to see what's going on. You can do this drop down to be 24 hours. You can do it for today. You can do it for a week, whatever the case might be. So I screenshot this a lot, just this square like you see it here. And then I might write from this post, 15 new listings today. You've been looking for a while. Your dream house might have just come on the market. If you're looking to buy a house, I would love to help you with your home search. I usually call it real estate adventure because it is. So with this information alone, you could create a wealth of content. People want to know what the market is doing. Is that not one of the first questions that people ask you when they find out you're a realtor? How's the market? Do you guys know how the market is? Do you know how many houses we have on the market this morning? How many was there last week? I pay attention to that number all the time because we finally topped over 900 within the last couple of weeks. What, 4 or 5 months ago, we could barely get to 400.
Where do you see those totals?
So when you click search on the MLS residential and you go to that screen, the bottom left-hand corner gives you the total count before you put any search in.
Okay, perfect.
So I do that all the time. And sometimes I'll just screenshot that little square that gives you that total number on market today. So you can spend a lot of time doing a lot of things with these numbers. Maybe it's back on market 8. I'm going to circle that in red or something with my markup app and post it and say, hey, look, guys, 8 homes are back on the market, probably to no fault of the property themselves. This might have been one that you lost out on or that you thought you wanted to make an offer on. Call me today and let's see if it's one of these is the one that you were looking for. So just think about these numbers and what they mean when you look at them and then post them in a consumer way that would spark their interest. You see what I'm saying? Did that give anybody some thought for putting together something? So there's lots that we can do inside the MLS. So you could then do, let's say let's say that you want to be the go-to agent in the Estates of Camden. Well, I would regularly post what's closed this month in the Estates of Camden. What's the range of the properties that have closed? There were 10 homes that closed in the state of Camden this month. They range from 225 to 340. This is a great neighborhood located in the Jack Britt district, close to everything, whatever. You can write up all these things that you have access to the data to get. You can put the little square copy from the MLS showing, the little one-liner without the other agent's name and phone number. You can post that and say, look at these houses. And you always give them enough information to pique their interest, but not all of the information, because then they won't call you. So don't get too wordy to talk yourself right out of a lead calling you. Just give them enough to pique their interest. Because you know what? You might be saying, hey, buyer, look what's going on. But then a seller in that area may see your post and say, oh my gosh, this person really knows everything about my neighborhood. And I've been thinking about selling. I'm going to call them call. Looks like they're the market expert for that area. So tons of information. You could post every single day of the week with information that you will find provided to you on our MLS. So think about that. Any questions about that part?
Are there any limitations of information that you can't post
Nope.
on the MLS page? Okay.
Nope. It's there for you to post. Oh, that's so sad. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna have to do some research. I'm gonna find something that works on Android. I will find you something.
I just looked too. I can't use my Android. And
there
are some in there. It's
Yeah.
called tapped response.
Yeah. Surely. Yeah. Because you can schedule text messages on a Droid. You can on an Apple.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, you can. Look, if I ever lose my day job, I can go to work for Verizon. That's my backup plan. I always got to have a. I'm so glad. All right, guys. So let's talk about what I like to call social media in the fishbowl. If you guys are going to use your social media to generate business, you must portray yourself in a professional manner at all times. We all have those friends that do nothing but complain. Maybe they're constantly resharing memes in other people's posts, a little passive aggressive, maybe. You know, don't be that person. Nobody wants to be around somebody who's always complaining. Right. And then, you know, I hear a lot of agents say, well, that's my personal page. I'll do what I want to with it. Well, you can. If you don't post it, you're doing business on it, and you don't push your affiliation. A lot of the companies now have a social media policy, and it's to protect the company. So I do not put my personal opinions about things on Facebook, because let me not click the wrong button again. Oh, there we go. My business clients and potential clients are way more important to me than popping off about some controversial topic. I'm okay with other people having their opinion. I certainly do not need to convince them of mine. My advice to you is to think before you type. I have posted on some other realtors' pages occasionally when they're not thinking about what they're typing. I have said, the best advice I have for you is delete this post and back away from the keyboard. So, you know, you guys have to remember, you want people to portray you as a professional. When I started to advertise on my Facebook page, it no longer became my personal page, because I want to be successful in this business. So you have to choose. If you're going to use your social media for business, then it's for business. If you want to throw around your topics and whatever, fine, do it. But don't draw people there for real estate, because you're only going to hurt yourself. And you know what? It doesn't matter what I believe. And it doesn't matter what my client believes. I'm going to do the best job I can do for anyone, no matter what they believe or what their stance is in life, because unless it infringes on some fair housing stuff, and you know, then they're not going to be my client. But you guys, it's very, very, very important to portray yourself. You can ruin yourself. People have ruined themselves in business by posting things they shouldn't post. So when I said earlier, you have a wealth, a whole audience at your fingertips if you use it correctly. So just remember, and people don't want to hear just about real estate. They want to know who you are. They want to know what you do. They want to see cute puppy photos and things like that. So don't just post about real estate, also post about your life and funny things and stuff like that. Does that make sense to everyone? Y'all have seen those people, right? So remember, our social media, we're living in a fishbowl. They're watching us. Everybody's watching us. See what we're doing. So be very, very careful about what you do. And that's just my opinion. Y'all can go out here and throw your opinions around. I'll take the clients that don't want you. So, all right. So, an expert in anything was once a beginner. Another question time about what we've talked about. So please feel free to bring up your questions, and we're going to go back to the question that you were talking about from the first session. So anything that you from the first session, this session, please, let's have a little discussion going around. Yes.
So I'm new to this, and just a little, when you're talking about cold call, so that was one of my, it's like it gave me anxiety for some reason. And
gives a lot of people anxiety, don't feel bad.
And sometimes, so when my big send out leads, I would see it and I was like, okay, it's like I can't get the guts to call all the time. Sometimes I just close my eyes and do it, but then, you know, most times it's hard for me to do it.
And it's not unusual, but let me ask you this. Is the pain of picking up the phone and calling someone to be hung up on or even cussed out, is that more powerful to you than it is to take the chance to live your best life? by dialing the phone. So anytime the doubt arises in you when it's time to pick up the phone, just remind yourself you've got nothing to lose and everything to gain.
Yeah.
So
when you say that, you know, I was like, you know, you're right, because I've never thought about it like that.
Right.
So
I found the best way to do it when you get that phone call or you get that number, don't think about it. Because our mind is a terrible thing at times. And when we start to analyze, oh my gosh, because I was there at the beginning. It might be nap time. Maybe they're at work.
right.
Maybe it's not a good time. Well, if it's not a good time, they'll tell you. So just do it, you guys. You got to reach out to these people, because if not, you're just going to wither away and they're never going to know how great you could have been. Another question?
So what's a early or late time you think is appropriate to call somebody?
I don't have one. I mean, you know, because like I stay up till midnight. I probably wouldn't call somebody at midnight. But, you know, if someone just logged into my website and it's say 9:30, I might send a text or an email. Hey, I just saw you logged in. Happen to be up working at my desk. Would love to chat if you're free. And a lot of times they'll write back and say yes. And, you know, I've had late night conversations with clients that then bought houses with me because that's the only time they could talk. Well, I will talk to you. So, you know, again, we don't want to put up limiting beliefs. But now if I were just cold calling, true cold calling, like I was calling a FSBO or something that was expired, I would do it during business hours. But if someone has sent like a lead thing on the website or whatever, you know. Yes. Yep. You need to make sure. Yes, they did. Yep. Got to be very careful about the do not call registry. And if they say, do not call me back, do not call them back. You better make note that they didn't want to call you back. We're going to come to you. I sent out a postcard mailing one time because I'd done a listing over off Cumberland Road. And, you know, I sent 50 postcards around the neighborhood. And this was, I don't know, probably 8 years ago or so, maybe even longer now. And it was like 11 o'clock at night. And somebody called my phone. And so I picked it up. And this lady might have had a few drinks. But she was calling to tell me not to send any more mail to her house. I'm like, I'm sorry. What mail did you get? And so she proceeded to tell me, and because, you know, I'm going to play games. And so I said, oh, that's because, you know, I just listed your neighbor's house around the corner, because one side it says, now it's time to pick your neighbor. The other side said, if you're renting in this neighborhood and love it, now's your time to buy something. Right. So it was two-faced. Well, she was only reading the buyer's or the renter side, and she was the owner of the house. And I'm like, oh, well, you need to flip it over because I'm talking to you on the other side. And she was just agitated with me. She goes, I didn't even think anybody was going to answer. I'm like, but you called me. You called me. So I'm like, so if you want to sell, she goes, I'm not going to tell you again to stop sending stuff to my address. I'm like, could you give me your address again, please? So I don't really know who I'm talking to. So, you know, it is what it is. And so it makes a funny story later. So for all those phone calls that you're going to pick up and call somebody, just do it. You might get a funny story to tell somebody else later. Right? So, yes.
You mentioned do not call list. I've asked several times, even in classes at my firm and stuff, where do I access this do not call list? I have Googled it. I have done everything to try to locate this list. How can I look down to make sure Miss Brown is not on that?
There is a finder spot where you can put in a number or name. Right. So yes. So it's and it's been a long time since I've been there because I haven't done any cold calling in a while, but it used to be and I'll find it and post it on the Facebook
Okay.
Is everybody in here part of the agent only group on Facebook? Because if you're not, we need to make sure that you get set up with that today, because we post a lot of information there and it's just us agents. So, and this is, and it's a site for sharing and asking questions and things like that. So don't post your open houses because they will get deleted. They'll never make the page. So it is certainly for learning. So we put out a lot of information there.
So on the do not call registry thing, the way that I've done it in the past is I just verify my registration as if I'm checking my number. So you can't do it in bulk. You can check up to 5 numbers.
Right.
Do not call.gov.
Yes.
And you can put there's a link there to verify your registration. And so I'll put those phone numbers in. And that's how I'm checking.
Yeah. I was gonna say it's just one. It's not like you can pull a whole list. You have to put the number in to see if it pulls any information. So it's not like there's a published list, right? Because you never find it.
Right.
It's just a search a number.
Okay.
Let's see. There was another question.
Yeah, it's kind of circling back to what we talked about before with the mailing. There was a specific website that you used, something that made it easy. You said you can elaborate on that a little bit more.
Postcards Plus. So there's a lot of services out there. That's the one that I have used. You can give them an address and tell them what your circle range is, whether you want 50 houses, 100 houses, whatever. And the postcards, you make them up with from their little templates, and then they send them out. And then it's like $2 extra to buy that mailing list. And then they'll send you that mailing list. And then you have that for any further mailings, like any handwritten postcard, handwritten notes that you want to send out.
So I've used Vistaprint, and they have like these graphic designers that you can sit down with, and the designer, because I'm horrible when it comes to like anything artistic related.
Right.
So I have a person helping me with that. Do they do that as well at the Postcards Plus?
I'm sure they do, because they're very nice. You know, they're it's a very personable company. That's why I guess I've always stuck with them.
Wise Pelican, they have all the templates.
Wise
Pelican, and they have all the templates already made for real estate. You just drop your information like right over top there. And it's the same concept. You buy this for $2.
Right.
And you do a radius, you do 50, 100, but they have really nice graphics.
Okay.
Wise Pelican.
Yeah.
Wise.
SE Pelican.
So to maximize the marketing aspect, also, I don't want a lot of those postcards just going to people that I might not want to target in those areas. Do you recommend going through realists sometimes to get off?
Sure. You want to make sure that you are targeting. So I always tell people when they first start farming is to pick a neighborhood, one neighborhood. And then when you go to look at the stats over that neighborhood, I always say pull the last 2 years sold and see if there is anyone who seems to list more than anyone else in that area, right? Because then you know that somebody's already been doing that. So if they've sold 20 houses and 15 were sold by the same agent, I wouldn't spend my money on marketing to that neighborhood. You see what I'm saying? So there's ways to figure out what's the best way to choose your price point. Choose one where maybe there's been 100 homes sold over the last 2 years, because there's a lot of turnover because it's a lot of military. Maybe you want to start marketing to them. Yes.
Can you go back to the when you said how to find out there's a lot of houses listed for that one agent? How do you do that?
Just pull the last 2 years closed. So when you go to the MLS, you're going to hit the search, then residential. And when you get to that screen to fill it in, you want to pick the neighborhood. So you just put the neighborhood code in, and then you click the button for sold and not active, and it will automatically populate to 0 to 180. You want to take that out and put the 2 years worth of, you want to check the last 24 or 48 months, whatever. And then it will show you a list of everything that's closed during that time. You guys need to come to the MLS class if you're not as proficient as you want to be in the MLS, because it's a great class.
Is that separate from the 4 that were on the
Yes.
website?
Yes.
Oh, see, that's why I was trying to find the MLS class. Where would that be posted at?
It usually comes in your newsletter. If you guys are not reading your newsletters, you need to do so because there's lots of good information in there. And the other place we post them on the Facebook page, and we have a YouTube channel.
I've watched the intro, there was 2 videos on there.
Yeah. Oh, and a TikTok now. I don't know about that one. Gonna have to start watching. Yes.
I'm looking for the Postcard Plus. I see Prospects Plus, but I cannot find
Prospects Plus. That's it. I think they changed their name. It used to be Postcards Plus. It is Prospects Plus. So there's that. What do we have any questions out in Zoom land? Y'all have been really quiet today. I'm going to give them a minute to ask a question. And I know what it's like to be on Zoom and you don't want to ask a question because you feel like you're going to disrupt the whole class and the flow. So now it's all about y'all. Throw us out some questions. There are people out there. You know, on those scary movies and stuff when they go, there really are people out there. There are. Yes.
So it's, we were talking about contacting people. So like the first jump dive in is like what first contact. Okay, let's say it works out and you have a potential lead there. My thing is like, I want to be reactive, but I don't want to be stalking. And like when people are not answering right away, like I don't know, like, should I send another text right now or wait?
We're getting ready to go into that whole section. So make me answer it in a minute. Did anybody have a question out there in Zoom land? Anybody, somebody asked something. Oh, good. Awesome. I hope everybody's learning. Could you at least raise your hand if you've learned something today already? Yep. Yep. Awesome. Zoom land, you guys, could you give us an emoji? Don't get a mad face. We don't want to see mad faces. Yes.
The agent only, is it an add-on? You don't go on that one, guys.
Yes. 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 We have to add them as the admin. When we take another break, I'll check for everybody and make sure to add you guys in. You'll find a lot of information there. All of the luncheons that you may have missed are posted there to watch the video and things like that. So, all right. Well, if there's no more questions about this particular section, we're going to move on. Okay. Now we have a buyer. What's next? So I was totally confused earlier because this is where the working with real estate agent pamphlet is supposed to be, and it should be next. Oh, I must click something backwards when I let the mouse fall to the bottom. I'm stuck. It's not going anywhere. Why is it not moving forward? What'd I do?
It might be because it's a video on that slide. You might have to hit the bottom left-hand side. There's an arrow. Bottom left-hand side. Further left. Further left. There you go.
I'm glad y'all can see this stuff.
The one next to it.
Oh, there is an arrow there. There we go. All right. So this is really where we were supposed to talk about the Working with Real Estate Agents pamphlet. I got a little sidetracked earlier. It's okay. You wanted our attention. Okay, for substantial contact, we talked about this earlier, you guys. You have to go over the Working with Real Estate Agents pamphlet. You need to make sure that you are telling the consumer that you are talking with about the different types of agencies in North Carolina, whether or not they want to hire you as a buyer's agent, that if they're not going to hire you as a buyer's agent, they shouldn't tell you anything that they don't want the seller to know. There's many things that you can discuss with them at this point. So if I talk to somebody on the phone, I always tell them about it before we even have a conversation, because you know what? I want to do everything right in life. I don't take advantage of anybody. I don't skip any steps. So I'll go over it with them on the phone, and, you know, I'll say, until you decide if you want to hire me as your buyer's agent, you don't want to tell me these things. They always say they want to hire me. So we get on with it. But, and then I email it to them, because I send in the email. I'm just recapping that, you know, we spoke on the phone. I went over the Working with Real Estate Agents pamphlet with you. I'm sending you the actual document for your review. If you have any questions after reading the document, please let me know, and let me know that you received this, because guess what, guys? They're going to respond to me most likely and say, yep, got it. Now, do you have the proof that you need to say that I went over the Working with Real Estate Agents pamphlet? Everything that we do in real estate should be in writing. So if I have a conversation with a client and it's something important and we happen to talk, I send them a text. Hey, I just wanted to recap our phone conversation, make sure I'm on the right page, that I'm following directions. This is what you said. This is what I said. This is what we're going to do. Did I miss anything? And they'll text you back and say, nope, you got it. So always follow up, always have it in writing, guys, because there's never a problem till there is a problem. Everybody loves you when everything's going their way. And the first time that there is a bump in the road, you're going to not have told them, or they didn't say that. So anything important when it comes to a transaction, I always, if we talk about it, I recap it in an email, ask them if I missed anything. Please respond to let me know if everything's here and it's all good. So I am constantly having those kind of, whether it's a text message or email, because, you know, through the years, when I've tried to help people get out of trouble, they'll say, well, this is what we said, and this is what they said. And I'm like, okay, do you have it in writing anywhere? Well, how am I supposed to have that in writing? Did you do a recap of your conversation? Because this is really important to make sure that you are, and I do it to make sure I'm right. Because if you hear something, how you then translate it sometimes isn't always the same. So make sure you have everything in writing. So if I talk to them on the phone, I'm going to tell them about it, and I'm going to email it to them. Electronic document transfer. There isn't probably anybody in this room that doesn't use some kind of electronic document management system, whether it be .loop, DocuSign, zip forms that's provided by the MLS or from our association, should I say. I get confused because we are the association. I tend to say MLS, but I mean us, the association. So it's very, very easy now to send the Working with Real Estate Agents. And the new pamphlet is so easy, the way that they have slimmed everything down. So I think it's way easier to go over. You still need to hit the topics that were in the longer version. And because I've said it the same way for so long, I'll probably continue to say it the same way. Yeah. Because it's just what I'm used to. I see a question.
Well, I was kind of, I actually wrote that down as something to ask about later, is how, as we transition to this new format, what can fall off. I found that, and I'm still new, but when I was like super new, I was probably overdoing it. I feel like maybe even scaring my clients. I can't tell you anything, right? And so, of course, figured that out as I went along. But now it feels like it's even slimmer.
Yes.
And like, here's the difference in the different kinds of agencies. Maybe I mentioned about confidential information, but then that's it.
Right.
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 I mean,
yeah, I agree. I think the slim down of the document leaves a lot of gray room for people that weren't explaining it to begin with. So it's okay to, and what I typically say, so I do mostly listings. That's what I like to do. I like the numbers. I like to do those things, but I also do buyers that are a direct referral to me. So you can imagine, as a listing agent, you might get a call about a house because somebody saw your sign, they want to see it, right? So typically what I'll do is call every agent that I know and say, hey, can you show this buyer? Because I don't like to be a true dual agent. Matter of fact, I've only done it once. And that was an extreme situation. I'd much rather refer it to you and let you pay me a 25% referral fee, because remember, I'm really lazy and I'll let you do half the transaction. So but if I have to go show it because I can't find anybody else that will show this buyer, I will go open the door. Of course I will. And so I always start with where I am. So you walk up to the door, you're the potential buyer, and I say, hey, my name's Melissa. I just want to go over a few things before we go in the house. I want you to know, as of right now, I am the seller's agent. I work for the seller, not for you. I don't want you to tell me anything confidential or personal about yourself that you wouldn't want the seller to know. And they immediately get this funny look on their face. And I'm like, if you walk through the door and this is your dream house and you would pay double the list price, don't tell me that, because you're going to throw out your negotiation power right out the window. Right. So always make something funny about it. Right. And then they're not so scared. And I always say, it's just a requirement of the state of North Carolina that I make sure that you understand how I stand in this transaction as you see me today. And I can represent you as a buyer. I usually don't even go into that, but I can represent you as a buyer if you choose to, hire me as your buyer's agent. And then therefore I would have to keep your personal and confidential information, just that. I could not share it with the seller, blah, blah, blah. So, there are ways, and I always use extremes to explain something, because then I don't ever want to say, if you want to pay $5,000 over list price, because that's a realistic thing. And now they're already thinking they don't have enough. Right. So if I make it something that's stupid, then I'm not offending them in any way. I think about everything I say, you guys. I think too much most of the time. So, just do it in a way that you're not scaring them. Because I have heard people explain it and I'm thinking, I'd be running from you too. So, it's something they need to know, but it's not that. Don't make it so, oh my gosh, and put a smile on your face, because everything comes across nicer when you're smiling at them, even when they can't see our smile, our eyes smile. Yes.
I got stuff on what you mentioned about the referral fee. Your client would have to be okay with that, right?
Be okay with what?
With you getting a referral fee.
No.
Because then you're presenting the offers to them, and they have to choose that one, and it's still needs to close that to them.
I suppose you could tell them. I mean, I tell my clients everything anyways, so I guess I never really thought about it. But the compensation that's agreed between your client and your firm about what they're going to offer in the transaction is something that's already predetermined, and your firm can then, decide how they're going to, according to the listing agreement, how it's going to be paid out. So, it's something that you should probably, if you have multiple offers and you're trying to push them towards this offer because of a referral, see, I just don't think that way. So, I'm going to get them the most money that they can get. So, but if that would be something that may sway you, yeah, you probably should tell them, that there's a conflict of interest right here, and most time it's going to be somebody in my firm anyways. So I'm going to have to say this offer is coming from, but good question. Because we want to make sure that we're always transparent with our client, no matter which side we're on. And I always am, because nobody's going to come back later and say, you didn't tell me this. So, but good question. Okay, moving right along. Just do it. Just do it. The commission expects that if they were to audit your files, that you should have a good amount of working with real estate agents that are signed by clients that you never did business with. So you guys should be doing them, because not everybody that we present the working with real estate agent pamphlet to are going to work with you. Matter of fact, I started this little competition with myself early on in my career to see how many I could gather in the drawer that I didn't do business with. It's all how we look at things.
Just having that, like you said, like the follow-up email showing that they've received it and that they've seen it is enough, right?
Right.
It doesn't necessarily have to be signed.
Right. Right. Correct.
Would you
Now, if I work with them, they're gonna sign it.
Yeah, for sure. But how would you follow that? Okay, so would you just create a file for all your?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, when we used to do paper, I had a drawer for working with real estate agents in my file cabinet. And now I use .loop for my business, and I'll send them the working with real estate agents through .loop and just name it their name. And if they don't do.
Is this just a way to save files? .loop?
It's how are you using how do you get to your documents to send them to your clients? What system are you using? You have to have a system.
Yeah, I don't have a system.
Your company should. Well, you have zip forms if you have nothing else.
I know I have the zip form.
So,
I just haven't gone through this yet, so I don't know.
Right.
I haven't really established.
So that's what it is. It's wherever you do your paper document
like
paper.
Storage.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's like you have files, but they're in the cloud.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
To-do list when I get home.
yes, figure this out. You know what? For all of you that haven't written an offer yet, let me tell you what I did when I first started real estate. And this is back in the paper days because we didn't have all these electronic documents. I would pick an MLS because, now that you have access to the MLS, do you ever sleep? You want to search and then research. I play a whole game with myself. Let's see who made a mistake and didn't put it in the right school district, and let me find it this way. So I would print off an MLS sheet and give it to my husband and ask him to tell me what he would like to offer on the property. And then I would write up the offer and I'd write up the buyer agency agreement, and then I would go over it with him because it's super easy, right? So do it with your friend, do it with your dog. I don't care. But the first time you want to do that is not when you get out with a buyer and now all of a sudden they want to write an offer and everybody goes, oh my gosh,
yeah,
they want to write an offer with me. I have no idea how to do this. So at least you're still going to need help writing up the offer, but at least know where your documents are. How do you sign in? How do you add a person? How do you send it to them? So it's definitely something that you need to practice. And we can't practice enough. I was telling them during our break earlier that I still read the contracts once a month. So because there's things, unless you are faced with the particular topic, that doesn't sink into you. And I always tell people, don't read it all at one time. Devour a paragraph and figure it out and think about ways that it may pertain to a transaction that you may be in. And then it starts to help you figure things out. And I love to figure things out. I think it's like this, when I teach CMA class, I always say, guys, it's like reading a mystery novel and we're about to solve it. And they're like, whatever. So, yes.
I struggled with the contracts, and I was actually that agent that somebody came in and showed the house, and now I'm writing an offer, and I'm like, okay. So somebody sat with me and helped me fill in the blanks.
Sure.
I wasn't paying any attention because I was like all nerd, and so they were helping me, and so we go in, sign the offer, and by the time I got finished with everything, it was like 5:30, and a lot of people were gone. So here I am in the office with this offer, and I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? And thank goodness there were two people that were staying late working, and so there were directions on how to submit it. So I printed everything out, and I had to send it, scan it in, and I would not have known.
Yep.
I was one of those. And so to keep me from being in that situation, our coach for new agents printed out contracts and filled in the blanks, went over the contracts, filled in blanks like a model. And so now when I'm writing offers, I just look at that if I forget to make sure that I'm correct. So that
I want everybody to remember when you're going through real estate. So first of all, there's no emergency in real estate. unless the house is burning down. So remember, as you look to your mentors or to your broker in charge or to whoever it is that you look to for your information, that they're running a business too. And I know that we're excited when we finally can write an offer and things like that, but be mindful to do some research for yourself, right? You should not be writing the first offer when you have a client to write it for. You should not be doing it. First of all, I'm going to look like I'm very nervous, and I don't want to look like that. I want to do it so that I don't feel uncomfortable. And the bad thing about electronic documents today is people send them and don't have to explain them. And I think that's a detriment to us as agents because people don't want to learn what's in them, what can protect them. I've done cross-sell agents with people who've been in the business longer than me, and there'll be a topic that comes up and I'm like, oh, sorry, the contract states this. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, if you read past the blank, that's what the next sentence says. So I encourage you to read past the blank because it's not just about filling in the blanks, you guys. It's about knowing what that contract can do to protect your client and you. And you need to know what's written in there. You know, so many people don't understand the things that are in the contract. It's our job to get paid to represent our client, to be their fiduciary. And we cannot do that if we don't know what the contract means. So that's just, you know, something when it comes to contracts. And next Tuesday, when Scott goes over contracts, y'all want to be here for that. Yeah, because he does it very, very, very well. So you want to make sure you're here for that. And it's very important. You know, a lot of people say that, you know, I've already went to a contracts class. You guys, you can't go to a contracts class enough because there's going to be another topic that spurs a conversation that you haven't heard before. And therefore, people over the years have said, oh, I've already done that, Melissa. Well, do it again. I love to go again. Even when I teach the class, I learn something new because it's a different group of people. We talk about things a different way. It's a great place to talk about the thing that you're most passionate about, is real estate. I mean, you're probably more passionate about your family and all that, but you know what I'm saying. So it gives you the opportunity to talk with like-minded people, which is always an encouragement. So take the time to go to class. Don't think that somebody's going to drop everything they're doing just because now you finally decided you need to know this because you might make a paycheck. So, okay. Educate yourself about their needs and wants. So these are two different topics when it comes to a buyer. And then again, we're seeing the word educate because you're educating yourself about your clients, what they need in a house. So a want is to have a strong feeling or to have something, wish to possess or do something. A want maybe a kitchen island or a deck, but would not be a deal breaker. Oh, I keep hitting something incorrect. Go to the next one. A need is a requirement, something because it's essential, very important. A need, baby, 4 bedrooms, 3-car garage. This list would contain things that would be a deal breaker. Know the difference. The very first thing I do when someone's decided they're going to work with me is I ask them to do a want and needs list for me. And I explain to them a need is going to be something like if you have to have 4 bedrooms, that's a need. A 3-bedroom or a 2-bedroom isn't going to work for your family. But if you'd like to have a kitchen island or you would like to have a screened-in porch, but it's not a necessity, I want to know what those things are too, because it's always my goal to get them as much of these lists that I can. And a need is something they have to have. They have to have those things. Okay, showing a client homes that do not meet their needs list is not only very frustrating for the client, it's a waste of time for everyone. You know, sometimes you may think, well, I'll just show them this because, you know, I want to make sure that they're with me all the time. just so this gives me something to do, even if we're going to get there and it's not really going to be what they want. That is the wrong way of thinking, guys. Don't do it. They get frustrated. Do you know how many clients that I have gained throughout my career because someone referred them to me because they had a bad experience with a real estate agent? And I always say, what didn't you like about your prior service that you received? And what did you like most about it? Because first of all, I don't want to make the same mistake, because I don't know what you like in a transaction and what I like in a transaction are two totally different things. So somebody might want to be touchy-feely and hear from you all the time, and some may only want to talk to you when something comes on the market that fits their needs because they're busy. You need to find out what that is. So one of the very first things people will tell me is because they kept showing me houses that I said I didn't want. Don't show them things outside their price range. Don't show them things that they don't want. It is a waste of time. Remember, when you're showing a home, it's not just you and your client involved in the time spent that you're using. It's the sellers, it's the listing agents, it's everybody involved in that. So don't willy-nilly just think about taking somebody out and showing them a house for nothing. And you know, if you're, and this is a hard conversation to have with your friends and family, but I've had friends call me and go, hey, I just saw the house went on the market down the street. I just want to go see it. I want to see what it looks like inside. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that. But Melissa, you show house all the time. Yeah, to buyers. Not to Miss Kravitz. So we're not going, because that is inconveniencing the time for the seller. It's inconveniencing the time for the listing agent, because now she's going to want to get feedback because she wants to know if my client's interested. Well, I cannot tell a lie. I was just not born with it. I tell the truth even when I should probably keep my mouth shut. It just is what it is. So I would have to say, oh no, it was just the nosy neighbor down the street that I had to let in. Now, how's that going to look for me professionally? So be careful when you're scheduling showings for buyers. Do what they want. Get them what they want. And when you show houses, make sure you send feedback. People in today's market, when they're going in a weekend, you know, a lot of times people will say, well, they're not looking for my feedback. Yeah, they are, because you may be the deciding factor to help them. How many here have gone on listing appointment? So few. Okay. How many people have had a listing appointment tell you that they want to list a house for higher than your market is? So you might be the deciding factor to, when you give your feedback, to say, hey, I think it's overpriced. Because, you know, some agents will say, well, we'll try it. But if we get a lot of feedback that says this price too high, we're going to have to rediscuss the price point. Well, if they can't get the agent to give them feedback, you know, if they think it's too high priced, or maybe they need to take down the wallpaper, because the listing agent's been saying, you know, if you took down the wallpaper, people don't want to deal with that. They don't have the foresight to see past it. So you're helping the listing agents. Don't just write, they're not interested. You can write that, but just say, what is the one thing? You know, it might be the master bedroom's too small and they can't do anything about that. But at least they have something to tell their seller. Hey, they just thought the master bedroom was too small. Nothing we can do about that. Somebody will like it like you liked it. So it's really, really important to do so. Okay, so when we're searching for our homes, we're going to open up, we're going to hit residential, and we're going to come here. The status that you have here, all of these different things, when we're looking for a buyer, we're obviously going to go with the active listings on the market. And then, and this clicker, you can pick things like the county. Maybe they want a specific neighborhood. This is where we're going to put that in at. A certain price point, we're going to put that here. We want to get as close as we can for what they're looking for. Like if they want to live in Hope County, we're not going to show them in Robeson County, right? So that would be a waste of time. It'd be a waste of time how we're looking through the MLS. There was a time there were 5,000 houses on the market. I mean, the buyer could go for days and we couldn't show them everything on the market. It's not the way it is right now, but it, you know, things always turn around. So we want to narrow down as much as we can to find our client the perfect house, but don't be too narrow in your search criteria, because sometimes it will not show you something that would be perfect. So I typically pick school district, price point, and then see what's there. And let's say if I had 200 homes to look through, then I might narrow down the price point or the bedrooms or the square footage or whatever is most important to my client. So once we've picked this house that we want to see, we're going to hit the showing time button. And once you hit showing time, it's going to give you the option to do a single showing or a showing cart. One thing I want to make sure that you guys do is you want to make sure that your information and showing time is up to date. Sometimes there can be mistakes. Sometimes there can be a wrong number, whether you input something incorrectly, whatever the case might be. Just make sure that your showing time, when you're going through, just glance at it, make sure it's good. So in this particular instance, we can schedule a single showing because we just had one property. If I had 5 properties checked, I would do add a showing cart, and then I would have to name it. And I usually use the last name of my buyer. And then we're going to pick a time on scheduling, because when we click next, it's going to bring this open. The black boxes are areas that are not available. You're going to click your time, scale one of these little squares. It's going to pop up and tell you that this is the time that you're requesting, and the appointment end time has a drop-down menu. Some agents will set their default to 15 minutes. Some will set it to an hour. That gives you an opportunity to change how long of a time frame you think you're going to need. I usually always set it to 30 minutes if I can, because when you get into a house with a buyer and they want to discuss things, it's a great time, because none of us, hardly any of us, put anybody in our car anymore, right? We're meeting them there. So it gives us a little time, which in times past where we would spend a lot of time going from showing to showing, talking about things in the cars. So I find that it takes a little longer in the houses today, because that's their time to ask us some questions. So I usually try and pick 30 minutes.
Or they may be 15 minutes late.
Right. Yes. And then we're going to hit request appointment. So here's some things that we should know before we go. Arrive at appointment time and finish at your end time. You guys, in today's market, any market, when we start out, and if your appointment time is from 12 to 12:30, make sure that's your window that you're there. If you book an appointment at 12, you can show up at 12:10. And that's why we have the range, because if you're showing many houses in a row, you're not quite sure when you're going to get there. But if you get there at 12:45, you may not go in. It is past your appointment time, and technically you are trespassing on the property because you have no reason to be there. So from 12 to 12:30, if that's when you book your time, 12 to 12:30 better be the time frame that you're there. If you get there at 20 minutes after, you need to finish and lock up by 12:30. Unless you make arrangements to schedule again. If it is a quarter to 12 and you're not going to make your appointment, it's so easy to go on the showing time app and cancel or change your appointment time. Don't just not go and not notify someone that you have decided that you're going to change your appointment time or that you're not going to make it. It is not fair. So when you get to the house, of course, you're either going to have a combo box or a super box. Just so everyone knows, every time you open the super box, it records your presence at the property. So the listing agent will get notification that you are there. I once called somebody who didn't have an appointment, and I said, "Hey, this is Melissa, blah, blah, blah. You know, I see you're at 123 Happy Street. Is there something I can help you with?" And she's like, "Do you have cameras here?" I'm like, "No, the super box just told me that you opened it." So, you know, don't go without an appointment. Don't give out combo codes to anyone. You will be fined. Okay. All right. If you're not going to make, we talked about that. Always leave the home as you found it. So if you walk in and all the lights are on and it's all staged up, ready for your buyer to see it, leave it that way unless you've been instructed to do otherwise. because in today's world, there might be 5 showings in a row. Seller might set the stage, turn on all the lights. If you walk in and all the lights are on, leave them that way. If you walk in and the lights are all off, turn them off. Make sure that you lock up the home, right? Always stay with the people while you're in the home. You cannot walk through the door and let them go willy-nilly and run all over the place. I always tell my clients, we're going to tour the house together. It's easier to answer questions as we go along if we all stay together. So I'm presenting it as a service to them. But really, it's my responsibility to watch after them and what they're doing in that home when they're in somebody else's property. So therefore, they stay with me. And if someone tries to veer off, I'm like, hey, remember, we're all going to stay together. Be patient. I want to make sure I'm seeing everything with you. So you need to keep them with you. I heard a listing agent said that her seller in multiple offers wanted to know a particular time in which showing who was the agent that was there. And of course, we have a record of that. And so she told him, she goes, why do you want to know? She goes, because that's the offer I want to accept. That was the only agent that walked around the house and stayed with her client. And so she was doing her job now. She's going to do her job later. Said somebody came in, sat down at their kitchen table, was on the phone while their people were walking around the house. You guys, you cannot do that. You have got to stay with these people. You've got to make sure they're not in people's property. You got to make sure they're not opening dresser doors and things like that, because they're not buying furniture. They're buying a house. They can open a closet door. They cannot touch other people's property, right? And, you know, I've seen some crazy stuff over the years. So stay with them. It's your responsibility to stay with them. Yes.
I had a question about the lockbox.
Sure.
In terms of etiquette. So when times have been busy and there's been back-to-back showings, one agent coming right after the other, I've noticed that sometimes people would leave the lockbox unlocked for the next agent. And I've had it happen where I locked it back and I noticed like the next agent would get a little deterred. And I'm just curious what proper etiquette is. I'm not trying to be rude.
Right.
I don't know if they have to come.
Right. So that happens a lot. And I've been in houses many times, especially lately, where somebody's coming up right behind me. If I know them for a fact that they are a real estate agent, then I will hand them the key. If it's a combo box. If it's a super box, I put it back in because that ends my time, and their time needs to be recorded about being in the house, because I'm not going to be responsible for them and their clients when my name is registered at opening the box and it hasn't been closed and the next person hasn't come in. 99.9% of the time, I'm going to put the key back where it belongs. And that 0.1% is because, you know, right. And I'm willing to take responsibility for their actions. So that's a very small number, but everybody should return the key. I see that all the time. People just passing the key. You don't know who you're passing the key to. Put it back where you found it. Leave it as it was. Make sure the house is locked up. And I just did it. I don't know, a couple of days ago, there was somebody walking up and I'm putting the key back away and turning the combo box. Because if you have the combo, and so people should know that, like, I'm a responsible real estate agent. So therefore I want you to put the key back. I can get it for myself.
I thought an agent actually almost hand the keys over to my client. And I had to like interject, like, oh, no, I'm the agent.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause they don't know who they're handing it to. Yep. Yep. I heard today that an agent who has now inherited a client found out the reason they didn't like their last agent is because that person didn't do enough for them, and found out that she didn't even show them a house. They just gave them the combo and let them go by themselves. I was like, please let me know who that is when you find out, because don't do that, guys. Don't hand out combo codes and things like that. Don't do it. It's not worth your license. Okay. And we've already talked about practice safety, you guys. Don't be a Pop-Tart real estate agent and go run into these houses with people you don't know. You know, when the phone rings. Yeah. Maybe I'm showing my age. You know, Pop-Tart, when you put it in the toaster, it pops up. You get the phone call and you pop up and you go run to go show this house to people you don't know. Don't do that. It's a safety issue. You need to meet them at your office. You need to make sure that they're, you know, who they say they are. Copy their, you know, if you feel funny, copy their license and say, you know, it's company policy that I get it. And before I go show, if they're serious buyers, they will meet you at your office because that's what they should be doing anyways. If they say, no, I really just want to see it, if you can take, you know, do a buddy system to go with, don't ever go. If you do, because not everybody's going to listen, so I'm going to tell you what to do if you decide to do that, which I would not, is get there 20 minutes early. If you're going to a vacant house because you have a listing, get there 20 minutes, 30 minutes early, turn on all the lights, unlock all the doors, open the door, stand on the front porch. If it's vacant, because when they get there, you can say, and I've maybe done this in the past, the house is open, lights are on, it's ready for your tour. I got to make a couple phone calls. I'll be right out here when you're finished. So if you get a funny feeling, don't enter a house with somebody, you guys, it's okay. And never, ever, I don't care if you're my best friend, I still show houses the same way. I am always behind. There's never anybody between me and the door. I am always, please, you first. They're always in front of me, you guys. I am always the one that can get out. We all stay together because they're all in front of me for me to watch while I'm going through a house. Always. It's a habit that you get into and you start doing and you're always looking out for yourself, right?
So how do you handle clients that bring extra guests with them? You were expecting to show the property to one person and they come with their whole entourage. Did you set up an expectation beforehand?
Yes. So with today's climate, if you're showing a occupied home, you shouldn't be taking extra people in because we should be following the COVID guidelines and not having people all over the place. But if you're showing a vacant house, I would still let them come. They all just have to stay in front of me because, you know, people are excited. You know, they want to show their mom or their brother. Kayla, we got a question?
So someone said, sometimes I get a text from an agent that is not on the MLS, but wants access to see a home. How can you verify they are an agent and not someone posing as one?
I would ask them to send me a copy of their driver's license and their pocket card. So, and typically if someone's coming from out of the area that I don't know, I will meet them at the property to let them in. Because we've promised our seller, right? We're going to do everything we can to sell their property. This whole thing about, oh, well, somebody's coming from outside our MLS. You know what? They should probably join our MLS. Well, you know what? Stop using that as an excuse. You promised your seller you're going to do their best. I don't care who writes the offer as long as somebody writes the offer, right? So I'm going to make it as easy as I possibly can. So I would definitely ask, though, if you're going to give out a combo code, to verify. The problem is, you know, somebody could send you that information and not be that person, which is why I always meet them there. I always ask for it and then I go to meet them there. I'll say, I'll meet you there at the property, whatever time. Does that make sense? Yes. She's saying if they're outside of our MLS. So you wouldn't get a notice from Showtime or Showing Time. They would call you directly as the listing agent. You know, maybe you have somebody coming down from Raleigh. So, but in our Showing Time, you know, they do that all for themselves. We're going to take another 10-minute break. And when we come back, we're going to continue on. So it's 11:25, so 11:35. We kind of ran over. I was trying to be good today to watch my times.
Because I actually had that situation happen, and I had an investor, so we go to this house, it's all boarded out. You sent it to my email. And I opened up the box, and there's
kind of nearing the end. We've talked a lot today. That's good. All right, so let's go on to what conversations are you going to have with your client while you're showing properties? So when you're spending this time in the house with clients, you want to make sure that you are finding out more about them. Always ask them, what do they think about the home? What did they think about the kitchen? What did they think about the wallpaper? I learned very early on in life not to walk into a kitchen and go, oh my God, I hate this wallpaper. Because then your buyer goes, well, I kind of like it. Yeah, it's growing on me. So now it's on, isn't it? Can you hear me? It's on. Unless my battery died. Okay. So always ask them, what do they think? Because really it's the only important thing is what do they think? It's not really about what we think. Oh, I almost pushed a button again. Ask them, can they see themselves living here? Help them create their future memories, right? So it's our job, because a lot of people don't have the foresight. You know, I'm like, can you see the kids playing in the backyard here? Does it feel like a place you can call home? All of those things, we're constantly recreating our lives as we move through it, right? Today's dreams aren't what yesterday's dreams were. You know, if I say to you, one day you'll be standing up teaching here at the association, the first thing you do is start imagining yourself standing up and teaching the class, right? So if you ask your buyer, can you see yourself playing in the backyard with your kids here? It starts to give them that vignette, that thought of what it might be like. And if they say, no, then maybe it's not the house for them. They can't see themselves living there. If they can't imagine it, then maybe it's not the home. But that's how you start, because real estate has a lot to do with emotions. If you can see the emotions come on, you know, I've had people walk in houses and start crying because that's like their dream house. Right? So, you know, finding the right place to call home is the most important thing we do when we represent buyers in one of their largest financial obligations they may ever take part in. So again, we go back to, it's not our transaction, it is their transaction, and we're the driver of the bus. And we want to make sure that they get to the destination with feeling as calm and as in control as they possibly can. So they loved it. Now what? What's the motivation behind owning this home? Because that's very important when we go to write the offer, right? We want to know what the pros and cons are about the house. What do they love about this house? What do they not love about the house? And you need to know those things. And a lot of times people say, well, I don't want to talk about what they don't like about the house. Then they won't want to buy it. Well, I do want to talk about what they don't like about the house, because when they walk in and they see that house that they think is the one for them, and they have these rose-colored glasses on, I always tell my buyers at the very beginning, I'm going to point out the things that you may not like about this house, not because I'm trying to discourage you into putting in an offer for this house. It's because when you walk in, you're going to have rose-colored glasses on, and I'm going to point those things out to you so we can discuss them and see if they are an issue for you. Because in 5 years, when they want to sell that house and all the feedback is the kitchen's too small, they're going to say, well, you didn't say anything about the kitchen being too small when we bought it, right? So I have all those conversations. I want to know if those are things that can be an obstacle or if it's okay. So I want to know. And plus, if they love the house, right? If it's just an okay home, but not really checking any of the boxes, they probably won't bet the farm on it. Their offer isn't going to be a super strong one, because they're okay if they get it and they're okay if they don't get it, right? Because I always ask a buyer, how upset will you be if you don't get this home? So that's knowing, again, educating yourself on their motivation behind buying it. If it's their dream home, they're probably going to be way more aggressive in what they want you to write their offer for. So you need to know. And, you know, I have looked at buyers, because for me, this isn't about getting a paycheck. I want to get my paycheck, But I don't want anybody to buy something that I don't feel like truly fits their needs. You know, there'll be a lot of people say, oh, well, just get this one because, you know, the market's hot and you're not going to find it and blah, 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 and yada, yada. I tell people all the time, look, I can see that you're not totally excited about this. I know you're ready to buy, but I think we can get you closer to the things that you want if we're just patient. So it's guiding them to the things that you know that you can get for them. So educating yourself about their needs, their motivation, that's the most important thing as a real estate agent, making sure that we know exactly what it is that they need from us. We are in a customer service industry, and servicing your clients should be top priority. Can you see why education is very important to all aspects of the transaction, no matter which hat you may be wearing? So we've talked about that today, and I think that a lot of people don't think about the education aspect of our job, because really that's what we are. We're an educator. We're educating our clients about this transaction. We are counseling them about price point and conditions and, you know, all the things that go along with this huge major life change. So knowing to educate ourselves, to educate our clients. Education will lead you to more money, because the more that you walk around in a professional manner and you're able to answer the questions and take care of your client's needs, the better agent you'll be. The more you educate yourself about the client's needs, the better agent you will be. And I could go on and on and on and on. But the more that you are like this, the more people are going to be drawn to do business with you. You know, we're not expected to know everything all the time, and it's okay. So I don't want you to freak out every time somebody asks you a question. Just say, you know what, that's a really good question, and I don't want to answer you incorrectly, but I'm going to check on that and I'm going to get back with you at 2 o'clock today. No, you don't have to say, oh my gosh, I don't know that answer. So just give them the information they need when they need it. And that, I'm telling you, the best transactions have the best communication and education. And people get to the closing table and they're like, wow, that wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. Now, I might be over here in the corner pulling out my hair because I'm dragging the other side through the transaction, but my people don't know that. Okay, I changed my thinking and I changed my life. Tell me what your light bulb moments were today. Let's talk about that and have any questions. We're going to kind of finish up. Anybody? Yes.
I guess for me, the biggest thing was taking emotions out of the equation. I've been in sales for a while. I've learned that already. But the way you put it, driving the bus and making sure that the passengers get what they need, it's not our transaction. Yes, we get a nice paycheck that comes in, but that's, once you take that out of the equation, you make sure it's nothing but for them. It makes, you're going into a level head at that point, and then you can make better decisions.
I'm glad.
Like the way you put that. I already knew that, but the way you put it, is,
I always use that. And now, you know, driving a bus, you know, because I hate crazy drivers. And, you know, when I'm with somebody who's driving crazy, I want to get off. I want to get out. Just drop me off. I'll walk 50 more miles. But so if you just think about it that way, right? We're just trying to get everybody, the home inspectors, the lenders, the appraisers, whatever else in the transaction, we're trying to get everybody to do their job because we're the only one in the transaction that touches everybody. Mortgage lender does their job and they're done. The appraiser does his job and he's done, and so on and so forth. But we're touching all of these people. We're making sure everybody's doing their job. Nobody's checking on us to see if we're doing our job. So you know what? Pat yourselves on the back, because we're part of the real estate transaction that we're doing our jobs. We're getting our people what they want. It's a good point, because you know, nobody wants to be on a windy road with a bad driver. Yes.
Someone wants you to repeat what classes are coming up next.
Thursday is going to be everything listing with Amanda Martin. Next Tuesday will be Scott Harden and Sunny Ryder with contracts and presenting a contract to your seller. Next Thursday will be Megan Gerber with from contract to close, all of those things that we need to take care of along the way. And they will all start at 9 a.m. Anybody else with a light bulb moment from today? Surely I taught some more things than that. Yes.
Well, as a new agent, it's easy to feel that the field is oversaturated. There's like hundreds of thousands of agents. So you talking about just providing something of value. Everyone is throwing their business cards. But what are you doing to go the extra mile? To separate yourself?
And you know what? There are hundreds of thousands of agents out here, but there's only one you. So what do we do? What makes us different from all the 100 out of the 1,000 agents?
Also, to put in perspective, look how many people are in the room right now, and how many people have joined online. And how many people are in the association. Yeah. It's those people that want to take this as a business and take it seriously and put the time, money, and effort that it takes to become a great agent. And, you know, it's all those things like sitting in this class today. A lot of people say, well, I don't have time to waste time sitting in a class. This isn't a waste of time. This is the most productive thing that you can do with your time, is to learn from someone else to take you to the next step, because we were all there. I sat in this same classroom for practical apps a long time ago and still remember Scott Harden was teaching back then, and Willie Snow and all those people. So never thought I'd be up here teaching class. That's like what I told y'all about creating your lives. One day you're going to be up here teaching class. Trust me, they suck you in around here. They will to you too. And speaking of which, if you guys are new, there's a lot of volunteer opportunities here at the association, and it's fun. You know, get on a committee. They're all going to start coming out for next year. Get on one of the committees. I do education this year. Last year I did PR. So I will be running for president-elect. Make sure you vote for me. So get involved. It's a lot of fun. And plus you get to meet a lot of great people, and you'll meet a lot of great people that love to get around, you know, and talk about real estate. I have friends in probably every single company in this town that, you know, I can call up and talk to about real estate. You know, I think that when we first started on real estate, everybody wants to draw that line in the sand. Like, I work for this firm or I work for this firm. And, you know, we're all in this together, you guys. We're all realtors. We're all teammates. We all should be working for the same goal, to get our clients what they want. And that's either to sell a house or buy a house. So look at it that way. You know, if you need help, you can always call me. And so volunteer, you guys, when they come out here shortly for next year, sign up for whatever is passionate for you, whether it's diversity or education or public relations or the MLS. If you want to see things change on the MLS, get on that committee, because that's
whether we're new or not.
It doesn't matter. No, we want the new ones, right? Because you're not tired of us yet.
My takeaway was read the newsletter.
Read the newsletter. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. There's lots of good things in the newsletter. And the ladies around here work really hard for that. So any other takeaways from today? Everybody should at least have one aha. Yes.
Well, mine was, you were very specific, because I knew, and trying to figure out, oh my gosh, how am I going to get people? How am I going to get this? But you were very, very specific of just the postcards and how to do it, where to get
Good.
It, where's the information.
Yep.
Because my husband said, oh, well, you just need, I was like, okay, well, you need to do this.
Yeah.
But it was really good. This is where you need to go.
Right.
So I'm ready for some postcards.
Good. Awesome. See?
Once a month for 1 year.
Yep. And everybody has to pick you have to do a little bit of everything in real estate for lead generating. But then you're going to find that one thing that you really are very good at, whether it's door knocking or sending out handwritten note cards or whatever. I'm going to piggyback off that for a minute. So I'm always challenging myself to think differently, because in every market, we have to change the way we do business or we'll just fade away. So I had a buyer this summer that was looking for a particular house in a particular neighborhood, and we got beat out on one. And so I was like, how can I get her what she wants? So I pulled up that neighborhood. I went and looked 5 to 10 years ago to see what was bought at that time. So I could then look at the pictures that were on the MLS. So I picked 5 houses that looked like what she would like, that had owned the house for long enough to make a profit. I did a mini CMA on those 5 properties. And then I did a custom cutting board and put all that information with a nice letter saying, hey, don't know if you've been kept abreast of the market, blah, blah, blah. And I mailed them all out. So although I didn't get anybody to list with me right then, now it's fun to me. So I'm just going to keep sending things to those 5 people to see how long it's going to take before they actually call me to sell their house. Right.
In that same situation, actually.
Trying to find a particular one.
They want specific neighborhoods and it has to have a pool. So
yeah.
Fortunately, that's a limiting factor.
Right.
So I can go through and I'm just starting with all the ones with pools.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go through and like look at when they were bought and
whether
the conditions are right. And we'll go from there.
Right. Right.
But yeah, same situation. Go reach out to them.
Right.
Well, and they want to buy it with the pool because that's, you know, a little bit added on to the value, but not the full value of installing a pool. So yeah,
right.
They're set. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah. So you have to be creative on how you're going to find your client what they want. So any other ahas? Yes.
So for me, I kept like thinking, as you were talking, thinking about the transaction I am currently going and see what I could do better and or what I like, like where I didn't do a good job. And definitely like the part about when you have to give some news, some projects,
yes,
your clients, how you would personally take it, that is something I have to work on because I feel like at some point I did I emphasized on a problem more than I should because actually like even if I had a solution,
right,
like they didn't need the part of that civic problem, they just needed directly the solution.
Yeah. I just say, hey, I want to keep you abreast. This is the information that I got today. I need to pass along to you and decide what you want to do. Not that there is anything to do. So don't make a problem. Don't borrow any trouble. We don't need to do that. Real estate has enough trouble of its own. You don't have to find any problems. You know, they will come your way. So don't look for them where they're not there and just deliver the information. Good point. And my big thing that I always tell everybody is just remember what I said. When they ask you a question, they're not questioning you. They're asking because they don't know.
So this is my last takeaway with the question. You break it down for me and providing the different techniques and strategies because my idea of farming was, okay, I have to go knock on these doors, but you're giving the different strategies that falls under the umbrella of
good
farming. That gives me a broader perspective on how to, you know, lead generate. And then my question is in regards to how do we become part of this agent Facebook? I know I stepped out.
I'm gonna make sure if you guys just try to find me on Facebook, friend me, and then I'll make sure you can get in. Because if you friended the Facebook page, did you go to it's Longleaf Pine Real Agent Only page. It just asks to be a member and we'll approve you in. And another thing I wanted to piggyback, because you brought up that thing, when I talked about everyday activities, I talk about real estate no matter where I go. No matter where I go. I could be in the shoe department in Belts and trying on shoes. And somebody will be there and I'm like, girl, those so look good on you. You have to buy them. And what do they say? You think so? Yeah, I love them. What do you think about mine? And then I strike up a conversation and then get around to, hey, I'm a real estate agent. Do you know anybody wants to buy, sell, or invest in real estate in and around the Fayetteville area? I'd love to help them out. And then they start thinking about your question and I give them my business card. And, you know, people crack up when they're sitting with me and I get a wrong phone call, a wrong number on a phone call. Cause I always ask them, if they're looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate. While I got you on the phone, I'm not who you're looking for, but while I got you on the phone, let me ask you this, right? That's right. Yes.
So this is a question, it's like I'm coming back to like, when you have a potential lead, I don't have, do you have a frequency to call back, and I cannot find I want to be reactive, but I don't want to be like stalking people.
Oh, that's right. You talked about that earlier. So when you get a lead, have you talked to them yet, or you just, yes. Okay.
For example, like one of them, so I look for properties already, and I found a place, and I send an email with a text message, and they are not responding. They are not answering. You know, so I mean, like I take it as they are not interested. There's something. Sometimes you get caught up.
Right. And see, you're giving your own limiting beliefs on that, right? Because you don't know that they're too busy or not interested. So if I send somebody a text and I don't get a response, I'm going to call them a few hours later. Hey, I just want to make sure my text went through. I might say I was having trouble with my phone. I wasn't sure. I have a lot of trouble with my phone.
Every day.
Yeah. So, you know, I continue to call.
So I do that actually, like on the same day, like I leave, usually I try to call first, and if they don't pick up, then I send a text message. Either or I leave a voicemail, and then like a couple hours later, I'll send a text message.
Right.
Then can I go back again the following day, like every day? How many times do I keep reaching out
till they buy?
I understand what she's saying, because I'm in the same boat. Like I got a lead. I called. I talked to her. Both of them actually.
Right.
And it seems so interesting.
Right.
And I was like, okay, so she, but then the next day when I call, the next day when I text, I don't get no response from her. And then I call her one evening, and she answered, and she was like, oh, I'm in the middle of dinner right now. Once my husband came home, we give her a call. I've not responded since then.
Yeah, I would just touch base, and I touch base on different things. Like I might say, hey, I was just reaching out, I try to find out any tidbit of information from people when I start talking to them, like what do they like to do and things like that. So it gives me reasons to call or to text or to drop a note. And I find that sometimes through the years, people do get busy and maybe they don't think about it. And I'm just touching base. I'm not being smart or anything. I'm just touching base. And then, hey, I know this was one you might have decided that now's not really right time. Is it okay if I just continue to send you things that may pique your interest until you're ready or whatever? And just keep, because I mean, I've had leads fall off the face of the earth for 6 months, but I'm still, and all of a sudden, hey, I'm so sorry, I've been so busy, but I am ready to look now. So again, don't tell yourself a story that you don't know to be true. You gotta keep moving forward and just reach out.
But at the beginning, like at the first stage, you do it like every day. Like if they don't answer back to you, like to a text message and a phone call on day one, do you reach out again on day 2, or do you wait day 3?
No, probably the first week I would reach out every day at different times of the day in different manners, like email, phone, text, kind of thing. And then if I still don't get a response, then I might move to like once a week. And then, and then if I get bored with that, then at least touch them at least once a month until they. Right. Right. Right.
Or you get that unsubscribe.
Yeah. There you go. That's it. Yep. Then they're done with you. Yes.
Obviously, you're feeding all those type of leads into a database. Do you have a preferred database that you use, or anybody else in here?
So I'm a little old-fashioned. I use my my contacts app, and I just write notes in there when I talk to them, when I did something.
Just your regular contact info?
Yep. And then I schedule myself reminders, calendar updates to when I'm supposed to do something.
Do you have a way of grouping them? Like, for example,
No.
like these are like hot leads every day, these are weekly, monthly, bi-monthly?
No, because if I just say to contact them, so when I put them in, like when I start a transaction, you guys, I go in my phone and I put all the dates, like due diligence ends this date, closing's supposed to be this day. And then I have it remind me at 5 days and then at 2 days, because I don't ever want to miss a due diligence time. So it just takes a few minutes to type in your, although this new calendar app, after they changed it this last time, it's always constantly changing the dates. I always gotta redo it. But, you know, there are many programs out there, Brivity and Realtor Top Producer and all kinds of stuff, but I'm also cheap with my lazy.
In our firm, we just, for us personally, we just suggest using a whiteboard. And if I can see it, it reminds me more.
Yeah.
So I always write things out. We both have like whiteboards.
Yeah.
We'll write down a name and date call, just as visual.
Yep.
It's in my closet. So I see it every single day. You know, so you kind of like know, you kind of know.
And I do well with visuals too.
I do with visual,
yeah.
That was a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't get too cluttered with too many contacts that you need to contact and all that kind of stuff.
But you keep move people off of it. They're not buying, selling right now.
Yeah.
Just move them off on a piece of paper or something.
And on my
right, put them on a piece of paper. Take a picture, put on a piece of paper, but just writing and seeing it, it makes you want to like go after it and just do it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's in reach now.
On my whiteboard, I usually have buyer, seller, and cultivating. And then I move them as they close or whatever. So.
What you can do also is ask in your firm, like who is using what. Us, we use, majority of us use Zap, and it comes with the database, and we can like put in your reminders, like your, keep track of everything, your phone calls, your emails, and yeah, there are some business builder too. So
appreciate that.
All right. Well, guys, it is a little bit after 12 o'clock. So I think we're about done unless anybody else has something. I hope you all enjoyed the class today. Good. Awesome. Thank you. I like to hear that because it's hard when you're standing up here and nobody's saying anything.
We're listening.